All right, we're now live, and so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be taking the political compass test. I actually meant to do this a while ago because a bunch of people started retaking the test just to prove that they hadn't become Nazis, I guess, and I watched Dank do it on his channel. He did a political compass test, and I decided, you know what, I should probably, do it. I said I was going to do something else today outside of the video that I just uploaded. And so I said, you know what, why don't I just do the political compass test if I'm going to do anything, just because it's interesting. I know that people have their, misgivings about the actual test. You know, people claim that it's bullshit or biased or what have you. It's not a great test, and that might be true. Maybe it isn't a great test, but to me, it's worth exploring again just for the sake of it. Because who knows? Who knows? Maybe the alt-right has a new ally in me after tonight. I kind of doubt it, but we'll find out. Let me just tweet this out. I'm actually doing this stream. All right. And I also have to get the chat up, so give me a second to do that as well. Oh, that reminds me, Tulsi Gabbard, once in a while, she'll have a bad take. She'll just say something stupid. And she did that earlier today where I think it was something that Trump said in the State of the Union. I'm not even sure. Like, I watched all but the last few minutes of it just because the second half of his speech kind of went off the rails. It just became boring. But the first half was pretty good. But she had this tweet where she laid the blame at the illegals that are coming over the border. She laid the blame on American foreign policy like in the 60s and 70s, but it's mostly the 60s, if I remember correctly, our intervention in South America. And that's a canard. That the idea that the millions and millions of Mexicans that are in the country, our intervention in Mexico? Are you serious, Tulsi? That's where we intervened in? I don't think so. I really don't think it was there. The only one I think maybe, I'd have to reread it just to even make sure, but El Salvador, that's the only one that I'm aware of, I think. But even there, it's a canard because the main reason why El Salvador is so fucked up is because it's, if I remember correctly, it's like a fucking narco state. It's one of the many nations that's like a narco state. And that's not our fault. It might be Americans that are buying the fucking drugs, but that isn't foreign intervention. So that was a stupid take from Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not aware of any foreign intervention in South America that directly led decades and decades and decades later to waves of Mexicans coming into the United States illegally. Someone's going to have to hold my hand if they agree with her, that is. So Whisperer asks in the chat if I've heard about or I have thoughts about Mercedes Carrera. So if the charges are correct, the allegations against her are correct, then it appears that the left finally has won on our side. We finally have a sexual assaulter on our side, and it's Mercedes Carrera, and apparently her producer / boyfriend / whatever. Someone else was involved, apparently. But yeah, that's unfortunate. It's alleged that she molested a 10-year-old, and that's pretty fucked up. So I already have 2 super chats. Nick Intentional Social Libertarian calling it now. What's Nick? Is that supposed to be a reference to that conservative personality that I don't remember the name of. Did I see the State of the Union? Yeah, I watched it this morning. Holy frick. Yeah, the speech was pretty good. Like I said, the second half of it kind of went off the rails for me. That's where it kind of lost focus and got boring. But the first half was pretty good. Oh, Nick from Life is Strange. Oh, okay. Yeah, Fuentes. That's who I thought you were talking about. But yeah, all right. So you're actually remembering these memes better than I am. Did I see Alex Jones going nuts about Joe Rogan? No. He has before. Somebody said that they were involved in drama before Jack Conte, or not Jack Conte. What's his last name of Twitter? What's his fucking last name? Dorsey. That's what it is. Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey and Jack Conte. Now, after today, I'm done with Jack Conte. Jack Conte can go fuck himself now. He had his chance, but he's a fucking cuckold to the fucking activists in his own company. It's one of the things I'll never understand about being the head of your own company is not reigning. Like, when activists within your own organization that you brought in are doing damage to your own company, like, you just sit by idly and allow it to happen. I can't imagine being in that position and thinking that that's acceptable. I would never run a company where I wasn't the majority shareholder, where I didn't own 40 or 51% of the shares, meaning that I would be in full control of every decision within the company. I don't think it's smart if you give a shit about your brand or the name of your company or the company itself. If you're the CEO and you're just there to be the CEO, that's fine. But if it's your company, you should always be in control of your company. You should never go fully public with your company and allow for shareholders to dictate what is done in your company, because that's how you get social justice activists destroying your brand. I don't even think he hired the activist whisperer. I don't even think he hired them. People are saying don't hire activists. Well, he's not the one, and he's not human resources. He's not the one making that decision. The issue is that he should have the power to fire them. And unfortunately for him, like, he's no fucking Andrew Carnegie, you know what I mean? He's no Henry Ford. He's no John D. Rockefeller. Like, he's just unwilling to fucking be the tyrant that he needs to be for his company. It's not hard. People always exaggerate the difficulty in firing people, but you can always come up with a reason for firing someone. It's not that difficult to come up with a means by which to have someone terminated from a company. My company, and it's not just the one I work for now, but all you have to do is put someone on a probation stint and then basically spell out to them what they did wrong, and then say that based on their agreement of employment, that if they violate the terms or whatever of the company again, they're subject to a potential immediate termination. Boom. Now you have an excuse to fire anyone. All you need is 2 reasons. Boom, they're gone. It's not very difficult to terminate someone from a company. Are you going to face potential litigation for wrongful termination? Yes, but you can face that. It doesn't. Anyone can file that at any time for any reason. So to me, it really isn't that difficult. All right, let me share my screen. And Patrick says, "What up, my Nippon?" Thanks, Patrick. All right, so we'll start taking the test, and I'll keep an eye on the chat if anyone else has any relevant questions to bring up. And who should I dedicate this cold one to? That's a question. I was gonna say that the child that Mercedes Carrera molested, but that might be a little bit too fucking on the nose. Might be a little bit too harsh. Who should I dedicate this to? I'll put it to the chat. Somebody give me a name. Who should I dedicate this cold one to? Andrew Carnegie? Bar Squawk? Maybe. Jack Dorsey? No. Bernie Sanders? Mitch McConnell? Fuck Mitch McConnell. No. Nick? Should it be Nick? Ruth Gator? Ruth Bader Ginsburg. People are saying Bernie. POTUS? Nick from Left 4 Dead 2, I think you mean? You said Left 4 Dead, I think you mean 2. There, raccoon. Rand Paul? Chris Raygun? Che Guevara? I don't want to dedicate it to fucking Red Cortez. Okay, I'm gonna say Bernie. Enough people are saying Bernie. I'll dedicate this cold one to Bernie Sanders because apparently he got roasted last night. So there you go. Shoe on head. No, I'm not dedicating it to Shoe on head. Prince of Conquest says, I know I'm late, but only 2 people could have made the Gillette ad, the Mommy Blog Brigade, and men with T levels comparable to their shoe size. That's a good one. It was an actual activist. It was a professional activist that made the commercial. I don't know what her name is, but people found out who it was. All right, so let's get to the quiz. So we start out with one of the harder questions. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. So this is one of the issues with the test in terms of the structure of the question. We're going to get to another one about protectionism. And I'll actually disagree with most people because most people think of protectionism through the lens of economy. But as someone that is far more finds foreign policy far more pressing than economy, even domestically, oftentimes, you have to be willing to use tariffs and the even embargoes or sanctions or whatever. You have to be willing to use everything to dominate in the world. Even domestically, if you suffer, you have to be willing to do that when you're, in the situation that you are facing off against the real threat. The way that you lose global hegemony is by pandering to capitalists and to corporations, to their interests, because they don't really give a damn about who is the hegemon of the world. They don't really give a shit about foreign policy outside of where they can make money. And in a time period, in an era in which there is an incredible amount of resentment, and I'm not really sure how else you would describe it other than resentment, nihilism, disgust with the West. I think it's important to focus on internal and domestic problems rather than the sole interest of corporations. But for the sake of this question, saying it should primarily serve humanity, well, that's the issue with globalization, is that it is in part serving portions of humanity. So this to me is kind of a weird question. By serving the interests of transnational corporations, you are in part serving the interests of humanity. So I will disagree with this because it isn't like This to me is kind of like the false question that I'd expect from a socialist. Don't you want to help humanity? No, because not all humans are equal, and not all humans are looking out for my interests, and not all humans uh, want to see America and myself in existence. Some people wish that I would be ashes in a nuclear fire. So no, I don't think we should be helping all of humanity. That sounds like some bullshit John Lennon would be pushing. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. So this is a much harder question because if you are in, let's say, Ireland or the Isle of Man or France or some country of not much significance, in the world, uh, your country doing wrong is different than another. And unfortunately, with this, it depends what the wrong is. I'm sure we can all understand what the right is, but what is the wrong? And someone just said the Isle of Man. Mitch said the Isle of Man is not a country. I thought it. What's it then? A territory? I know it's part of the UK. You'll have to. Somebody from the UK will have to actually school me on what it actually counts as. Is it a territory? What's it considered? A protectorate? Okay. So it's a vassal state. But my point is that if you're the Congo, if you're Somalia, if you're some nation of any significance at all, little to none at all, it doesn't really matter whether your country's doing right or wrong. Um, Nations of great power and influence in the world, it matters a lot more because I guess for the sake of getting past the question, I'll say disagree, just because you can consider it from the position of the difference between, because what does my country mean? Does the country mean the people of the country, or does it mean the government, the state? Obviously, it means the state. And this is the problem. I thought about this the other day. When you elect a sheriff, you're electing a law enforcement official that is responsible to not just the law but also the people. If the sheriff does wrong, you can replace the sheriff. But if the secretary to the mayor, or an FBI agent that's acting on behalf of the Congress, or a Secret Service member who's acting on behalf of the president, if they do wrong, we can't get rid of them. They are simply part of the state. It's the difference between an official police department with a commissioner, a chief of police who answers to the mayor or maybe the city council, versus the sheriff who answers directly to the people, who is directly elected by the people to enforce the laws. The state, it can be different. It can be completely separate. So we'll move on from that. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. This I disagree with, because ultimately, we all are products of our culture to some degree. This kind of notion to me is basically speaking to the idea of tabula rasa, blank slate. Every country's the same, and we're all born as blank slates at birth. So when you grow up in a country, it's stupid to believe in your country. Well, it's like, well, not all countries are the same. Not all countries have the same cultures, the same laws, the same standards, the same beliefs, values, etc. And obviously, people move from country to country because they differ with the values, or what they value. Comparative to different countries. So I think that if you believe differently, you should move to another country. But and the thing is, no one chooses his or her country. Yeah, you do. You can. There's such a thing as immigration. So I disagree. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. So this is one. It's pseudo biology. It's pseudo genetics. Because this is one of the problems of. Let's entertain this for a second. The only thing that defines race that people stress are differences in medical conditions that I don't really think can be controlled outside of when genetic engineering becomes something serious, or IQ. That seems to be the big thing that people focus on when people talk about race. And it's also something that can only be controlled for to some extent. The problem with race is that, or excuse me, with IQ, is that it doesn't actually lead to anything that I find. Because you can compare East Asia, which has, as far as I know, the highest IQs on Earth, and they've only not been barbarians for not that long of a period of time. If you look at Europe, if you look at the West has been developing philosophically and culturally for, millennia, even hundreds and hundreds of years, centuries of development. And yet in East Asia, with higher IQs, it's not the same. They're not equal, even with higher IQs. So I don't actually think that race is important in this way, to the degree in which you can say that our race is superior. I don't believe that that's where the West derives its superiority from. I think that it comes from cultural and philosophical evolution and consideration, centuries of that. I think that's why ultimately the West is currently dominant against the East. The only way that the East even competes with us is by sacrificing, their own people. That's what you see in China, is labor exploitation and just state authoritarianism and collectivism. That's the only way in which they compete with the West, and we don't have any of that. We don't have to sacrifice our own people for the sake of GDP and the rest of it. So I disagree with this for, as I just stated. I think that racial collectivists need to realize that being white or any other color, regardless of what we're talking about, but any racial identitarian who's white, they should realize that this isn't a winning argument for them to make. The difference is culture. The difference is values. The difference is what you actually believe and whether the society in which you're in is actually philosophically evolved enough to sustain the things that separate the West from the rest of the world. Because I think it's pretty clear that the West is better than the rest of the world in many ways. Maybe not in every way, but in many ways that matter, such as liberty. That's a big one, where we are superior to the rest of the fucking world. And I don't think that that's race. I don't think it's race that determined that. I think it's philosophy and what people actually value. And the only thing that I think needs to happen in the East isn't higher and higher IQs. I think it's the fact that the East needs to recognize that in the West, we have something going for us, and that's individualism. It's not collectivism, which is what they embrace. They embrace collectivism, and they suffer for it. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. No, the only way that that actually makes sense is from a Machiavellian point of view, and that's only on the condition that the enemy in which you're speaking to, who's the enemy of the other enemy, is weaker than the other enemy. You basically allying with them, or having a fragile alliance with that enemy, The only way it can work is if they're weaker and that you can control them. That's the only way in which the enemy of my enemy is my friend, is through the Machiavellian perspective. The problem is that I don't think nowadays, and there's been examples in history where that is fucking screwed up. Many examples, I think, in fact, especially involving mercenaries that, march back and fuck up the people that paid them. I think that's actually happened to the Roman Catholic Church as well. So yeah, this is false, in my opinion. It's not just I disagree. I think that this is false. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. So the issue with this question is that it has the presupposition of international law. Well, as an American citizen, I can tell you there is no international law that is not written by the United States. We are the hegemon of the world. We write the international law. What international law is what we say it is. Why? We are the most powerful nation in the world. That's why. That's the beauty of hegemony, is there is no such thing as international law that isn't written by us. Because if we violate international law, what happens? Nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. That means there is no law. Maybe other people are going to be accountable to it, but not us. Because no one can enforce that law as it relates to the United States. So that's the false presupposition with this question. It's trying to tie you up in that framework when it's actually not true. It could be true for any other country in the world, but it's not true for the United States. So I'm going to say strongly agree. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the military action itself is justified, mind you. It doesn't mean that the action itself is justified. It just means that in terms of international law, it is, because there is no such thing as international law to the United States. There is a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. No, because the Fourth Estate is a joke. It should not be in the Constitution. Let's see here. Did I miss anything? No. Okay. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. So the presupposition with this is that all working class, all middle class, all wealthy people of all nations are more similar than they are different. And that is demonstrably false. Now, I would say that there are things that unite capitalists. I think that's why there's such a worldview of internationalism. I think that can be argued, through class. I do think so, because most of those people are incredibly wealthy. But are working class people all the same in every nation? No, that is demonstrably false. Are middle class people all the same in every other nation? No, that is also demonstrably false. So people are, in fact, defined more by nationality than they are by class. I am sympathetic to the class argument, but to me, it's only something that you can reference within certain nations. So I disagree. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. So I'm not really sure. I guess from different perspectives, both of these can be potentially right. I know that there's an argument for controlling inflation, and that it's one of the reasons why we have the Federal Reserve, is trying to maintain very low inflation. And that I'm trying to remember, like, that's bad for savings, but it's good for investment. Maybe I'm trying to remember, or property. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember exactly. Someone can say it in the chat. What controlling inflation? What is that good for? It's good for something specific. Can someone say it in the chat, because I forget exactly what it is. I'm gonna have to wait for the chat to catch up. Oh, the worth of the dollar. Okay, well, that's one thing. I think it's something else, though. I think it's something. I know you are correct about the spending of or the worth of a dollar. Okay, is that it? Economic stability. Well, I understand that. I understand for economic stability and inflation. Obviously, when you don't have control of that, that's obviously something really bad, as we can all see with inflation or with Venezuela. I mean, inflation in Venezuela. Okay, I see a lot of people saying spending power is the reason why controlling inflation isn't important. And I don't really know how you can control for unemployment. Here's the question that I have for the chat before I answer this question. How do you control for employment? How do you control unemployment? I don't understand like what could be done, because you can have government subsidies or government programs to help unemployment, but you could also control for inflation. And government hiring for the sake of trying to deal with unemployment, that's totally ridiculous. That only damages your economy even further. Yeah, I don't really see any answers from the chat. Yeah, I'm not. The question is how would you control for unemployment? That's the question. I don't have it. So I'm going to say I'm going to agree, and I'm going to say that controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment, because I obviously can tell that, high unemployment is bad, because then you have tons of people on welfare or tons of people that are desperately poor. But with inflation, that could damage your overall economy a lot more. I do know that. I'm not very economically sound, but I do know that inflation can seriously damage your economy if it gets out of control. The case in point is Venezuela and many other nations. I think Africa, what is it, Zimbabwe, that had insane inflation at one point. I doubt it's the only nation in Africa that had that issue. So the next one is, because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Um, so I do know that there's an argument against this, but the thing is that I do think that there should be a system in place to fine corporations that damage the environment and don't clean it up and try to avoid the issue of cleaning up after the damage they've done and have passed it on to the taxpayer. I've seen that happen. And there's been actually a couple times where the state was just as liable as the corporation. A good example in my area is Love Canal. Love Canal was a combination of Hooker Chemical and the state, and also the federal government, uh, dumping toxins into a pit by the standards that existed then, but the city allowing people to build on it, even though the corporation specifically did not want and tried to warn the construction companies and the people moving onto the land. And there's proof of this in newspaper ads. The corporation itself tried to prevent people from moving onto the land, but they were forced into selling the property. They sold the property for $1 to I believe the town, I want to say, or the city. They bought it for $1, and the corporation actually tried to prevent people from moving onto it, but legally they couldn't do anything. So that's an example where the state did more to hurt people than the corporation did. But I can say that I do know of more corporations that have done wrong than and have been forced by the state to clean up their mess than the opposite. So I will agree with this, just because while the state can do wrong, oftentimes I think that corporations are more likely, especially industrial ones, are more likely to damage the environment and try to pass the buck off to the taxpayer. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Fuck off, Karl Marx. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, branded consumer product. No, it's the same as everything else. You just drink public water. It's a utility. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Fuck off. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Well, I agree with that. I'm not trying to get in the way of anybody earning, as the saying goes, but the issue is that to me, this is just a moral question of, is it better to be someone that is actually employing others, creating a good, providing a service? I think that is something better than simply playing the stock market or, in this instance, manipulating money, and they do nothing as a direct result of that. Because the thing is that the presupposition in this question is contribute nothing to society. And by that, I'm assuming that they're not paying any capital gains tax and they're not paying any kind of income tax. That's the presupposition in this question. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade, and I'll agree. I won't necessarily strongly agree. I've already explained with the other question. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in terms of foreign policy. Economy, no. Protectionism damages both sides, but in foreign policy, yes, it is sometimes necessary in trade. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. So I agree with this. And the reason I agree with this is because right now we are watching what happens when corporations become woke and they are out of control. They are out of control in being woke, and they are abusing their own customers rather than simply trying to make a dollar. It's one of the things a few different people brought up and named it the worth of a bigot's dollar. That's the question. And my answer is yes, a company should take a bigot's dollar. They're there to make money. They're there to provide a service. They're not there to fucking be political. The rich are too highly taxed. So in the United States, maybe yes, maybe no. In New York, yes, they are too highly taxed. There was an article about, or a story that came out the other day where a bunch of rich people are leaving New York, and it's making the state suffer. So in the context of New York State, yes, the rich are taxed too much. In terms of something else, I can't really answer. This is up to you to answer. If you live in France, the answer is probably yes. If you live in the UK, the answer might be yes. In Canada, I rightly don't know. But in New York, as a state, yes, the rich are, in fact, demonstrably taxed too high. Why? They're fleeing the state. That's when you know that the taxes are too high. So I will agree. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. I agree. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. So this is a little bit harder of a question, because is this referencing fraud? I don't really know. If what this is taught, I'll put it to the chat. Is this about fraud? If it is, the answer is yes. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yeses, but I'll wait for the chat to catch up. Maybe this is about taxation. I'll wait for the chat to catch up. Okay. Okay. So now we're getting all yeses. So yes, I will agree. And the reason is that that's everything that I do all day. Every day I investigate fraud. And I can tell you, and I can tell you this, that fraud costs all of us. We all suffer because of fraud. You know, if you're a resident of New York State, you pay me to investigate fraudsters. You pay me to investigate criminals. And it is because people are taking advantage of the systems in place. Fraud hurts everybody, even if you don't think so. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. So I would agree. I think that honestly there is an issue with overregulation and the ability and the inability for businessmen and entrepreneurs to actually do what they want to do and make the business that they want to make and provide the services that they want to provide because of the state. I do believe that this is an issue, and I think it's true of every state and in every country. But I do think that there is issues with companies becoming too big and them uh, using their power against people. So I will agree. The freer the market, the freer the people. I will agree with this because I think honestly, people look at this kind of question and they're thinking of like the soulless corporations. And I see this question and I think of the entrepreneur. I think of the small business owner. I think of the person that has the balls and the intuition to go into business for themselves. So I do think that it is highly important to have a free market, and that oftentimes the freer the market, the freer the people. I do think that that statement follows logically and philosophically. So I agree. Um, Abortion, when a woman's life is not threatened, should always be legal. Um, so here, I'll leave it to the chat because I really don't have much of an opinion on abortion. I know that this has become very controversial now because of the fucking what was it? North Carolina? Who? What was the or Virginia? Was it a governor who was like, "Yeah, we need to just deliver the baby and slit its throat or whatever the fuck," because of the abortion bill they passed? I'm not really sure how to answer this question. Yeah, I don't even. To me, it's a question of like people mix up the morality and legality. That's the issue I have with abortion is that the people that are against it, they're always combining the two. And to me, it's a question of I'm not participating in it. I'm not doing it. To me, if it happened where I knocked up a girl, I would never want her to have an abortion. I would want her to have the child. The only case in which I would want her to have an abortion would be, or to terminate the pregnancy, would be in the case of the kid is going to be completely fucked up, is going to be just a mess that is inevitably going to die right after birth, has a million birth defects and that sort of thing. That's where I think it makes sense to terminate the pregnancy. That's where I'd be willing to say yes, do it. Just because I would not, I don't want to bring into life a child who's going to suffer immensely up until the day they die. You know, unfortunately, I think that people on the pro-life side are too extreme about this. They're like, well, it's still a life, so bring it into existence. I don't really give a shit if it suffers. That's your problem, faggot. Good luck paying for it. Uh, I just feel good when I go to sleep at night. I'm not really won by either side on the issue. So abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. So I will disagree. The free speech, actually, hold on. I got 2 super chats. Or actually, I got a couple that I missed. Sorry, I'll read some super chats. Baczynski says Kim Gurig. I'm not sure what that's a reference to. Hate Speaker Sargon says, take my filthy furry shekels, Louis. I will take them, but I will not. I disavow being a furry. Baczynski says, tabula rasa doesn't take into account babies being socialized into sucking teats. Patriarchy, obviously. Kai says, what's poppin', my man, in before you land in the top right corner of the compass. I don't think it's going to happen, bro. But thanks for the support. Patrick says, inflation destroys the ability to save. Yeah, that sounds right. Inferno Chill says, Roe v. Wade is a bad case. Yeah, I don't even disagree with Roe v. Wade being bad case law. I don't even disagree. Don't need to moralize at all to oppose it. Sure. I'm not even. I said abortion, not Roe v. Wade. I'm not agreeing that Roe v. Wade was a great decision. It seems really sloppy, but I do think that abortion should be legal in the case. And it's the same sort of thing of like, weed should be legal, smoking should be legal for tobacco, drinking should be legal. I'm not on board with the government having the power to say no to citizens doing what they want, even if it's a bad decision. Because where does it stop? Do we ban, should we be mandating contraceptives to prevent abortion? Should we be mandating that all sex result in a child? How far, how much control do we need to give to the state to determine our lives for us? I think that if you want to make a bad decision, you should be free to do so long as you're not getting in the way of other people. And the next thing is the free speech zealot says, abortion is a necessary evil. The problem is the rights of the father. I agree. I agree with that issue of the rights of the father. I agree that should be not just a philosophical or a moral question, but also a legal question. I agree that it should be questioned in terms of abortion. Because you can have a case where the father wants the child delivered and the mother wants to abort it. And I'm unsure how to resolve that. But I do think that the right of the father to have his child delivered, it should be considered seriously. All authority should be questioned. I agree, because it doesn't mean that all questioning is justified, but it does mean that I don't think that there should be any authority beyond questioning. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No, it's the philosophical or the moral position of a retard. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I agree with this. I do sympathize with museums and art galleries and that sort of thing. But the problem is nowadays is that all of these institutions are run by fucking leftists. And I'm sorry, but I'm not paying for you to do your fucking leftist bullshit. So I agree. If they can't survive based on their own profit, they should not exist. Let them stand on their own 2 feet. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Well, that assumes the right exists for the child to not go. And I don't agree. I don't agree that children have the same rights as adults. So I'll disagree, because I think that gives credence to the idea that children should have the same rights as adults, and I don't agree. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. No, I disagree with that. Because what's their own kind? That sounds like some collectivist bullshit. And I'm not. Enclaves don't work. That's all I'm saying. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Well, that's fucking obvious. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. I agree. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I agree. Obviously, there's other things that I think that are the function of schooling. I think everyone in the chat would agree that we have a problem with civics. Oh, I did miss one. Good parents sometimes have to spank the children. Yes, obviously. I think that when you don't spank your child, you get the millennial generation. uh, People with some serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Well, that's a serious question, isn't it? That's a serious question. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce, which is basically the government sterilizes you. That would be the only way in which that this would be possible, would be sterilization. Hmm. I don't know. Do I? Well, it's a question of whether it's philosophically right or whether I agree with it. Serious inheritable disabilities. The question is how. I guess it would be how would it be done? How would it be done? Yeah, who sets the parameters? That's correct. Um. Hmm. I'm not really sure. Just because, like I do think that it could be something that could be a problem in your society. I do think that it can be a problem, and that this is something that should be on the table. But it is a question of whether the state should make the determination and whether they should have that power. Uh well, the other thing is though is they already determine consent and contract and that for people with disabilities. They already do that. Hmm. I'm unsure. I'm unsure. Louis, philosophy in the short, you can do whatever drugs you want. Choices, but the government can sterilize you if you found to be lacking in genetic superiority. JF strongly disagrees. Uh, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going with agree. I'm going with agree because this is a problem. This is a problem because I've already said it before that when people are mentally retarded or they have serious birth defects, they are nothing but a detriment on your society. They depend on everyone else. They are a glorified parasite. And I'm just going to leave it at that. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Uh, I'm not really sure whether it's to accept discipline or be disciplined. What do you think? I'm going to ask the chat on this one. People are still reacting to the last question and my last answer. Do you think that this question is about being disciplined or simply accepting like authority? What do you think this is about? I'll wait for the chat to catch up before I make a determination. Louis is kind of an objectivist. It's about accepting authority. Okay, I see pretty much everybody saying accepting authority. All right, so I'll disagree. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Strongly disagree. And the reason I can, or the way I can showcase that is by watching the Twin Towers crumble to the ground. That's how we know that this is demonstrable, that there are such thing as savage peoples. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Yes, that's all I do every fucking day of the week. So I have to agree. When you are troubled, it's better to not think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. See, this could go both ways because you shouldn't ignore if there's something wrong in your life. Like, let's say, for example, you're fat, you're super fat, and I thought about this the other day myself. It was super cold for like a solid 2 weeks around here, and I was just chomping at the bit for it to warm up. And as soon as it did, I went out and I started jogging, even though it was kind of awkward because it was still kind of slushy out. But the issue is that you, man. So the issue is though is that if you shouldn't allow something that you're concerned with to get in the way of you being productive, but also that if you are concerned about your health or you're concerned about something serious, you should always, you know, remember to actually follow through with what you are concerned about and not just avoid it, because that to me is the issue with this. So whether it's about avoidance or not. So I'll put this one to the chat as well. Is this about follow through, or is this about being productive? Don't worry about being, I'm depressed, and worry about being productive. What do you guys think in the chat? What do you think? Are people still talking about the disability question? You shouldn't. The judgment's already been made. You shouldn't have. It's not going to happen to you. You're not retarded, so don't worry. Productive. Okay, sure. Okay, if yeah, sure. Okay, I'll agree. I'll agree. Just because I think we have a problem with people being too. Uh, yeah. Okay, sure. We'll just go with agree and move on. First generation immigrants can never fully be fully integrated within their new country. Um, the question is what fully means. What is meant by fully? Because if even if you have a little bit of an accent, I don't know if I would qualify that as full integration if you just have a little bit of an accent. Yeah. What does chat think? Yeah, I know there's a lot of depends. There's a lot of questions, and it's a little bit too vague. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. No, I'll disagree. I'll disagree. Let's say that you're Canadian and you move to the United States. You're telling me that you couldn't become fully integrated in the United States? You're a first generation immigrant from Canada to the United States. You can't fully integrate, you know? I don't think so. Or you're from the UK and you go to the United States. You can't fully integrate? So I disagree. What's good for the most successful corporations is ultimately good for all of us. I'll disagree with that. Yeah, because I mean, because the most successful corporations could be ultimately just dependent on the state and use the state for their own profit and their own gain, and that isn't good for the rest of us because we're the one footing the fucking bill. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I'll agree with that because every fucking publicly, sponsored entity is a leftist fucking shithole or an establishment shithole. So I'll agree. Again, the fourth estate should not even be in the Constitution. It's a waste of space in the Constitution. Uh, our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I agree because they can't. These alphabet soup agencies can't even prove that they're even fucking doing anything. A significant advantage of a one-party fuck. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all arguments. Fuck off. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Disagree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. No, because the state should not be in the business of executing its citizens. The only time in which it's justified is when you're dealing with a police officer. That's when the police officer has the authority to take your life, but the state shouldn't. The state might have the right to sterilize you, but it doesn't have the right to take your life. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Um, Not really. Not obeyed. I don't think that that's the. Yeah, the structure of this is way too authoritarian. So no. I mean, I do think that like law enforcement officers should be obeyed, but they're not above me, and it is because they're enforcing the law in which you're obeying the law, and through them the law. So I'm going to disagree. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. So this is a question of, well, Black Sabbath is demonic, therefore it's not art. So fuck off. I already know what this is. What this is going to be. This is just a slippery slope of abstract art is shit. Therefore, and then you move on to I disagree with this. I don't like this. Therefore, it's not fucking art. So suck my fucking dick. You're not the arbiter of what is art. In criminal, actually, I'll strongly disagree with that. In criminal, because dude, I see that all the fucking time. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. I see this all the time where somebody says X is not art, and it's like, fuck you. You're the fucking arbiter of art, are you? No, I don't think so. It's just it's just an excuse for something that somebody wants banned. That's all it is. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Um, Punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Uh, More important. I guess so, because it's not determinate. Like I do want corrections to be rehabilitative, but I don't think that that's ultimately the goal of law enforcement or of criminal justice. I do think it is just penalty to breaking the law. Um, so I'll agree, just because for the sake of I don't necessarily agree that rehabilitative justice is ultimately the aim of criminal justice. It's a waste of time to rehabilitate some criminals, yes. The businessman and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. So I'll disagree with that. And the reason is because that every society that has ever been, even the most backward societies on earth, have manufacturers and they have business people. And the writer and the artist are those that can fundamentally change society to the better. People shouldn't forget the fact that Franklin, Jefferson, Madison, countless of the founding fathers were writers. So I think that this is a question that people should consider more about and understand that every shit society has business persons, or businessmen, I should say, rather than the stupid way of saying it, and manufacturers. Every shitty nation has these two people. But writers and artists are the ones that can ultimately change a nation for the better. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I don't give a shit what mothers do. Mothers can determine their own lives. I don't really care. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'll put this to the chat. What do you think, chat, about this question? Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Yeah, I see yes and no. Yeah, see, people are saying case by case basis. I'll say no, just because I think that there are cases, yes, of unethically exploiting plant genetic resources, but it's also here's the question. Here's the question: who is making the farmers buy them? Why aren't the farmers just using their own seeds? Why buy when you could just not? So I think that maybe in cases this is true, but I don't think that this is true. Maybe in majority of cases. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. No. Depends what the establishment is. Establishment in the United States is fucking shit. So no, I don't agree. Astrology accurately explains many things. No. You cannot be moral without being religious. I disagree. I consider myself to be moral, and I'm not religious. I do believe that people, uh, especially religious people, question if everyone would be moral without religion. And I do think that there is a question of what happens once a country becomes more irreligious. But the point is, you cannot be moral without being religious, and I disagree with that. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I don't really know. I mean, charity ultimately is up to the people voluntarily making it. And I think that most people are generous. But is it as a utility better? Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Okay, so the context is disadvantaged. Okay, so those that are actually disadvantaged. Charity is better. Well, I would say in the modern era, I would say that in the modern era with crowdsourcing websites, that it is in fact better. I do think that there is a lot of efficacy to modern day charity, modern day crowdsourcing, and that I do actually think it may even be uh, more efficacious, more effective than Social Security, or I guess welfare in this case. So I will agree. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm against capital Social Security, capital letter Social Security, but I do think that it is ultimately more effective for helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Some people are naturally unlucky. That sounds like fate, so no. It is more important that my child's school instills religious values. No. I mean, it could instill civic values, but religious values, if you go to a private school, maybe then you would agree, but not in terms of the public. Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral. No, it's not up. It's not up to me to determine your morality for your sex. I would say that I'd be willing to say that having a child outside of marriage, by my personal standard, is immoral because it significantly increases the chances of you splitting up and that child being raised in a single parent household. So I would agree with single parenthood being immoral because you got pregnant outside of marriage. It doesn't mean that it'll always last, but that's my position. That's my position. I would never have a child intentionally outside of marriage, personally. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. I'll agree, but I do think that we're currently seeing a problem with same-sex couples abusing their children. I think we're seeing quite a bit of that, but it's not the only ones. They're not the only ones. All those drag kids, they've been from, heterosexual relationships, heterosexual couples. So I'll agree. I think that when people think of the drag kids, go look it up. I think all of them are from heterosexual relationships. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. I'll strongly agree. Visit JList. If you haven't already, click the affiliate link in the description. What goes on in the private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Sure. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Disagree. As far as I know, it's biologically determined, so I'm pretty sure that qualifies as natural. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I agree. I think drag kids is case in point of that. Things have gone too far. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Everyone in the chat, I need you right now to press 1 if you're ready. Press 1 if you're ready to see me in the top right-hand corner bracket after answering that disability question. Because I don't know where I'm going to be. I honestly don't know. Press 1. I need ones right now in the chat. I need everyone to press 1 if you're ready. I need everyone ready for this. If you want to see the results. 100. Okay, I want everyone right now in the chat. I'm going to do it too, just for the sake of it. I want everyone right now to type in the chat 100. I want everyone right now to type 100 in the chat if you're ready to keep it 100. If you're ready for me to keep it 100 as I just did in taking that test. I didn't even see my fucking post. Oh, there it is. Okay. We're all keeping it 100 here in this stream, all right? All right, here we go. I don't know. Where do you think I'm going to go? Up here by Hitler or Thatcher? Or over by Friedman here? Ready? Oh my God! Take a look at that. Take a look at that. Everyone, let me zoom in here. What the fuck's going on here? Zoom in. Fuck, did I zoom in on the wrong page? What's the zoom? Oh, I did zoom in on the wrong page. Fuck. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Here we are. What do you think? See, now it's pretty crazy, right? I think what might have swung me is that disability question. I think that disability question fucking altered the chart. And I'm not even I don't think I've gotten I mean I'm pretty fucking libertarian. Like I said, I think that disability question sent me way off. But it's amazing because as far as I'm aware, the closer you are to the what is it? The I don't remember if it's the x-axis or the y-axis. I don't remember which one's which. Hold on, I need to Google that. X-axis. Fuck, it's not explaining it. I don't know which one's which. Okay, so, okay, now I know. Okay. The x-axis, the closer you are to it, is how, especially if you're on the right, as far as I'm aware, is how much of a ridiculous capitalist you are. As far as I'm aware, that's what the x-axis means on the right, is how much of a capitalist you are. And in terms of libertarian, that's how much of basically an anarchist you are in terms of authority of the state. And like I said, I do think a few of these questions kind of swung it for me. But I would hope that some of you that are more, economically capitalist, you'd be willing to say that that you approve of me, at least in terms of my shift in politics. Because honestly, I used to be right around here. For those of you that can see my mouse cursor, I used to be right around here. This is where I used to be. And so I've kind of swung to the right. Oh no, John Marston's in the chat. John Marston's in the chat calling me right wing. Disavow the shift. Signing up for GOP when? I guess. I don't know. I know. The thing is that oh no, John Marston's oh no, John Marston got yeeted. Oh no. Oh no. Hold on. Press F for John Marston, ladies and gentlemen. Press F for John Marston. This is too much for me. This is too much. It was honestly. He just came. He was coming to me. He was going to ask me for some money because my name was in the ledger. But no, he got yeeted from my chat again. It's too bad. Whisper is too fucking. He's too active. All right. So that's the I guess here, let me I'll screenshot this real quick. Let me screenshot this, and maybe I'll make this the thumbnail for the video. Let me download that. Put the file somewhere where I'll remember, because I got files all over my fucking desktop. So yeah, I'm surprised by the result, but I knew I would be in the bottom right bracket. I knew, for how much my politics have changed in the last few years, I knew that I wouldn't be in the left bracket any fucking more. And the problem is, I've been pushed there. I've been pushed there. This isn't my fault. I didn't want this. I never asked for this. I was pushed into this position. I think what happened is I became a property owner. I think that's what happened. Now I'm sitting here in my all white 3-piece suit saying how that only, white male property owners should be able to vote. That's where I am because I've become a property owner myself. Where were you on 9/11 and what was your reaction? I was in school and I was just confused. I don't even remember how old I would be. Maybe like 12 or something. I was unsure what was going on. I just didn't really understand it. My father yelled at me about it because I was like, I saw it on television. I don't remember what I said, but I was like, I said something, and he just yelled at me like, "Oh, this is terrible! Like, you don't understand what's going on." Because I'll tell you this thing. I'll tell you what. The fucking boomers, dude. 9/11. I think honestly, the boomers were terrified by it. I to us now, to us young people, it's kind of a joke. It's a meme, something that happened a long time ago. But I think the boomers, man, they fucking went crazy about it. And it's understandable. It's a terrifying event. Worst terror attack on American soil. And, a lot of people fucking died. It was a traumatizing event, but especially for those in New York City, I'm not begrudging them for what happened in their own city. It's terrifying, but I think the boomer generation went fucking crazy. Let's see. I got to get to some super chats. Everyone in this chat could be called for excessive autism, says Mitch. Prince of Conquest says most disabled people don't reproduce anyway, bro. Oh, now it's official. Now they won't. Now we don't have to worry about it. Postmodern art can be considered not art. Well, it's deconstructionist art. It's still art, but the intention isn't for it to be art from the artist. So Inferno Chill, you're actually incorrect about that. It is in fact still art, but from the artist, the purpose of it is to deconstruct art. TC says Japan sterilizes trans post-op. Yes, I saw that recently. Drag kids are indefensible degeneracy. I agree. Party says get those recreational nukes ready, boys. Yep. Dylan98 says time to become a Republican, Louis. Mitch says Louis Le Vau. And Dylan says again, ask me the question on 9/11. Bad Girl says, I'm from the Isle of Man. We are crown dependency, not in the UK? Really? I thought you were part of the UK. We have our own governments. We are part of Britain, though. So you're... Oh, okay. That's weird. We're very important. Lots of money laundered on the shores. Lol. That's crazy. So you're part of Britain, but you're not part of the UK. That's crazy. Okay. Can we sterilize pedos? I don't know. Does that count as a mental deficiency? Or is it I mean, it is, you are defective, I would imagine. Are you voting for Trump in 2020? Louis asked Dylan. It depends. It depends on him. I mean, I'm not going to say one way or another. I never guaranteed that I'm going to vote for somebody because I always leave them room to lose me. That's the big thing about voting is you never want to become a sycophant for a party or for a politician. You always need to dangle your vote in front of them and say, oh, I'm going to take it away. I'm going to take this vote away. You better win my vote or I'm taking it away. Every politician should be in that position. Patrick says, the majority of the Chris Ray-Gun types are what I call the children of Jon Stewart. Damn. I would take that as an insult. They only know how to mock what they hate. Yeah, I agree. I think that, yeah, I don't really want to bring it up because my channel's still suffering from the after effects. Well, the thing is, my channel right now is doing very well in every single way other than subscribers. I've lost 200 subs since that stupid video of his dropped. But in every other way, I'm doing better than I have in the past. The video response that I did to his got a phenomenal reception to it. Outside of the faggots that came to my channel and downvoted, which is what I expected, the response to, my response to him was overwhelmingly supported by the people on my channel. And that's how I know that it was, in fact, the right response to do. So I still stand by the original video I did. I stand by the response that I did to his response. And for the people that are leaving my channel, okay, whatever. I don't know what you want me to do. You didn't criticize me. You didn't offer me anything for why. Like, how do I keep you on? How do I keep you aboard my channel? What can I do to keep you here? You didn't offer me anything. So when you just leave and you don't say anything, it's like, okay, well, I guess there's nothing I can do. I don't know really what to say. I'll upload more content, and I've been pretty good about that most recently. But unless you tell me exactly what you think I should do differently, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing now. So yeah, that's the see, you Strike Team 7 says Mega 64 drama level. It's actually significantly worse than back in the day when I had that drama with Mega 64 with their subreddit. I had a bunch of people come to my channel and downvote videos, and I believe as well flag videos. Nothing got taken down, but I believe they were flagging my shit. And that's why I took down the video, was because I privated, actually. It's currently, I think, unlisted. And one of these days, I got to upload it to my secondary channel. But as bad as that was, I didn't lose any subs over that. It was just a not very good video by me, and it attracted the attention of their sycophants on their subreddit. But with Chris, this was the worst. This was the absolute worst, just because, it cost me 3 months worth of fucking subscriber growth. But the issue is, though, numbers wise, because there's many different ways to factor it. It's numbers, and then also the health of your subscribers. Like, if I got on here and I said, and I had a fuck the fans moment where I go, if you don't like what I have to say, fuck you, unsubscribe, all that jazz, and people start leaving my channel because they go, oh, Louis, you lied to us, or you were talking shit to us, or you did X or Y, Z wrong thing to explain to me, you had a reason, and you explained to me exactly why you're leaving, then it's my fault. Then I did something wrong. But in that case, people agreed with me. If you go look at that video that I did and the response to his response, the reaction from my channel was overwhelmingly positive. I didn't see anything in terms of, outside of your original video wasn't that good. But my original video didn't stop, over 1,000 people from liking my video. That video did incredibly well. And many people liked it. They thought that was a good response. I didn't see barely anything outside of people that aren't from my channel saying stupid shit to me, equivalent to, you're a fucking loser, long man bad, etc., in which case, fuck off, I don't care. You're not even from my channel. Why should I give a shit that you think, oh, big, you made a 40-minute long video? That's great. I don't care. The other side of it is numbers. And in numbers, when it comes to views, watch time, likes, comments, everything that you could consider outside of subscribers, all of my numbers have spiked. All my numbers spiked. And they've been going down after the drama, but they're still up, way up compared to where they were a couple months ago. So numbers-wise, in that regard, I'm doing totally fine, including as well as making money. I'm doing better than I have in the last, like, year, where I am right now. The only problem is subs. That's the only thing that right now I'm suffering. And I can't explain it. I don't know what to say to people outside of I'm not as popular as Chris. I'm sorry. I'm not as funny and entertaining as Chris. I don't have jump cuts. I'm sorry. That's all I can say because that's all I can offer. Because that's the only thing that's been said to me. I see people in the chat saying long man bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. My videos are too long. I need to just do cookie cutter 10-minute long op-eds where I just give you like generic vague opinions, you know, insert some shitty jokes, generic meme jokes, and, you know, jump cuts and then a commercial in the last minute of the video, and then that's it. By the way, I'm not even naming anyone specific in that, but that is a common occurrence on this fucking platform. There's a lot of channels that is their content. That perfectly describes practically every one of their videos. And I'm not naming any names because I'd be sitting here all day naming those channels. Where is V standing in this, Lewis? I to be honest, like I'm totally good with V. I haven't talked to V in a while. Occasionally I watch V's channel. It's usually when I see his videos on Discord or floating around somewhere. It's when I watch his videos. Chris is skeptic Ray William Johnson. I'm not sure if I know the reference. I know who Ray William Johnson is, but I don't really know much about him. Hate Speaker Sargon says I can always go on Mueller's podcast. Well, the problem is that I think I've only had one interaction with Mueller, and it was through Rags. I mean, if people want me to go on Mueller's podcast, I guess I can ask Rags if Mueller's willing to have me on. I'm not really sure if Mueller... I mean, he was on a stream with me one time, but it's because of Rags. So I guess I could ask to see what, you know, if Rags can ask Mueller. I'll just have to remember to do it. Can I elaborate on my pacifist stance? Is that you mean my opinion of pacifists, or if I am a pacifist? Because I'm not a pacifist. I think pacifists are immoral. Mueller and Rags are definitely long man bad, 2-hour-long videos where they don't get into the point within an hour. You at least stay on point for the 40 minutes. I mean, I could say that I've seen a couple videos from Mueller that I thought could definitely have been edited down, but it's unfortunately because like people make claims or they say something about what he says, and so he has to address all the things that people say about him. I think that that might be where I would criticize him, is if people are giving you empty criticisms, fuck them. Why do you have to respond to everyone? Who cares if it's just empty bullshit? Focus on your own opinions. You know, that's what people are coming to your channel to hear, not other people's bullshit. So that would be my one criticism for the Mueller videos I've seen. I don't really have any criticisms of Rags in that way. And I watched his 2-hour review of Fallout 76, and I didn't think it was too long man bad. I thought it was fine. I think he played the game and he had a lot to say about it because there's a lot fucking wrong with it. And I agree. I think that Fallout 76 is fucking symptomatic of where modern gaming is. And yeah, it may deserve 2 hours of explanation of how fucked up it is. So I don't really get the long man bad criticisms. I really don't. Basinski says pacifism exists because there is someone willing to do violence for you. I guess if you can pay, are you saying you could pay somebody to be to do violence for you? Is that what you're saying? Party says, I choose you over Chris Raygun. Not a hard choice, to be honest. Well, I'm not even asking that. I know, apparently we had bleed over. We had crossover. I'm not saying to unsubscribe from his channel. I did. I did it personally because, you know, I take umbrage with the fact that this guy is slighting me and he just isn't willing to address anything I said to him. And he didn't link my video, which I also didn't like. I understand it's like, oh, don't go over there. They're going to come over here and fuck with me anyway, dude. You may as well link my fucking video. I find that to be a little bit more disingenuous than actually linking it. Because the problem is that you showed a few points that you never addressed, and there was plenty more to that video. So I don't even really want to get into it again. His video was shit. I'll say that. Say whatever you will about my original video being rambling. His response to it was fucking trash. Pacifists will be sterilized? Well, maybe. Didn't ask that question in the test. If Whisperer asks, if Mercedes Carrera is convicted, do we lose the privilege of using Reset the Clock? No. We got our one. We got Mercedes Carrera. We got our one. Gamergate has one. The journos have like 1,000. I don't think one is what does us in for Reset the Clock. We'll see. Put it on the board right now. We just reset the clock for Gamergate. Gamergate just reset the clock with Mercedes Carrera, allegedly. If convicted, then officially we've reset the clock for Gamergate supporters. Now let's wait and see how long it takes. Let's wait and see. Because I guarantee you that we're going to see another, like, what'll be funny is the article that comes out, like, oh, she got convicted. How many days are going to go by before, how many hours are going to go by before another journo or whomever, a leftist, a feminist, is going to fucking go down for sexual assault? How many hours should we give it? Euro asks, I think Basinski means if talk about a problem long enough, someone will eventually get mad enough to resort to violence. Maybe. Mary asks, would you say you're in favor of free market capitalism supplemented with redistributive policies, not necessarily more straight up welfare? Yeah, I would say the longer things have gone on, the more skeptical I've become of the welfare state. I think that disability, workers' comp, unemployment, you know, Social Security in the attempt, you know, a public pension program, the purpose of that, what existed prior to it. I think that everything that's created, the intention behind it is good, and that it's attempting to deal with the elements that happen in society. But I think that if you were to look at even, let's just say, workers' compensation, and I've said this before, it's a line that I continue to use because I do think it's true, is how many multi-million-dollar detective agencies do you have to have created from just fraud before you consider making cuts or restrictions to workers' compensation? It's a real question. How many million-dollar organizations, million-dollar companies do you have to create as a cottage industry to deal with the amount of fraud from one fucking program, one policy? How many? How much money? You know, it's a real question. So I think that Just be aware that you see way more fraud than the average person. Yeah, well, obviously, I'm a private investigator that deals with it as a profession. So yes. That aside, welcome to neoliberalism. What do you mean by that, Mary? What do you mean by neoliberalism? What do you mean by that? Is that some sort of fucking dig? Lol, Le Pen said the Brazil guy was fascist. Marine Le Pen said that fucking Bolsonaro was a fascist. Bro, she's like a socialist. That's pretty fucking big balls if that's what she said. I'm waiting for the chat to catch up. The abuse rates for workers' compensation are higher than 5%. I think, who said that? Mary, you have no idea what you're talking about. with whether it's welfare, maybe Social Security, it's as low as 5%. But workers' compensation, it is above 5%. I guarantee it. The more one size fits all a program gets, the more potential for fraud increases. These programs are a privilege in a wealthy society, and it's abused. I absolutely agree, Tim. See, Tim, the resident conservative on this channel, is correct. That especially the second half of that super chat, that it is it's a privilege in a wealthy society. I absolutely agree, and we are a wealthy society. So I do think that there is room for welfare programs or Social Security in lowercase letters, that sort of intention. But I do agree that they're all of them. All of them are absolutely being abused, and I think that in the cases of potentially welfare and definitely workers' compensation and disability, they are absolutely being abused. In the case of if you are employed by New York State, especially certain fields of like corrections, I'll just say it is rampant. Fraud is rampant. We are talking going from, let's say, 5%, which is what Mary said. In real life, it is probably closer to half. It's probably closer to half of all cases for corrections officers are fucking fraudulent. That's how fucking bad it is. We're talking not millions, tens of millions in fraud annually. That is how fucking bad it is for one fucking state. Because you have to understand that we're talking about people that go on workers' comp, stay on workers' comp, and we're making $100,000 a year and are paid that. Add it up. It gets to the millions very fucking quick. And it's not the only field in New York. Police is less so. Police, I would probably say, just a ballpark, as maybe somewhere around 15%, 20% are fraudulent. Maybe a little bit higher, just because there's exaggeration and staying over longer than you need to. But workers comp, man, especially if you're a public employee, it is just, abuse is rampant. In regards to welfare, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are legit people on those programs. Sure. I'm not saying that it, like I said, workers' compensation, it has a direct purpose. Disability has a direct purpose. I'm not saying to end those programs, but I am warning that, again, I'll just say it. How many multi-million-dollar detective agencies do you need to exclusively investigate one fucking thing before you think it's a problem? I'm just saying. Old Eric asks, out of curiosity, did you ever investigate someone who clearly wasn't abused? Yes, I have abused. It is the minority, definitely the minority of cases that I have, but I have in fact investigated people who are 100% on workers' compensation fairly. They are legitimately injured, and it is exactly to the degree that they have been given, like whether it's if it's permanent disability, then it just becomes disability. But with workers' comp specifically to insurance claims, it's typically just temporary total disability. That's usually what the court hands out, and those are the majority of the cases that I investigate. Is temporary total disability given out by a judge. And there have been cases that I've investigated, and I've basically shown evidence, and I've said in my report, like suggested it to the client. It's ultimately their determination, the adjuster, it's their determination to make. But I've suggested in certain cases, like, this person is legit fucking disabled. Don't waste any more money on this. And sometimes they take that advice. Other times they disagree and they continue investigation. Hey, at least it creates extra jobs. I don't really know if that's a good thing. I don't really know if it's good that, I mean, sure, in an ideal society, my job wouldn't exist. Prince said, weren't you and Chris Reagan on Sargon 2016 election stream? Maybe. That's the thing, though, is that I'm only friends with certain people. That's the problem. Is that when you're friends with somebody, they have to treat you fairly. But if you aren't part of their clique, then they can just do what Chris did to me. Just burn a bridge and say, hey, I didn't even know you in the first place. Fuck you. And not take anything that I said as serious and just do the video that he did and burn a bridge. And that's what he did. Patrick says, Chris ignored your example of blonde in cities. Of course he did. Instead, he chose the part where I talked about bad friends that I had for the purpose of trying to dismiss me. That was the reason why he picked up on that, was to dismiss my point, to say, oh, he's just projecting onto me. That was the point of that. It was a disingenuous argument. Tim's, I already answered that to Tim. Eyes of the Wolf said, is Anime Gate upon us? As far as I'm aware, it's been a problem for a while, but I don't think, I mean, you can send Eyes of the Wolf, link me to something on Twitter if it's, right around the corner. Tim says, these programs are abused for vote buying, let's be honest. There used to be a stigma of shame associated. As that went away, the abuse skyrocketed. I agree. Not necessarily in every program. I disagree with the beginning of that, Tim. I definitely think for welfare and other things, it might be true for vote buying. But in terms of the second half, that shame associated has gone away and that abuse has skyrocketed as a direct result. Yes, I agree entirely with the second half of that. Joseph says, should FBI arrest you for lolicon material? Well, one, I'm not even aware of any lolicon content that I'm in possession of. You'd have to tell me exactly what I possess that is lolicon. I'm not sure what qualifies. And two, possession of lolicon is not a crime. So the FBI would be arresting me for something that they couldn't actually charge me with, as it has been the case with the cases that I've seen of those prosecuted for Loli. They've never actually been convicted for it, and they're never really charged for it. The first half is how it is now, not necessarily how it began. This is from Tim following up. But a lot of the modern welfare state spawned from FDR, and he was a power-hungry lunatic. So I will agree, Tim, that the only thing that I will defend is Social Security. Social Security was created because we had it was something like 30 to 40%. No, it was something like 40%, somewhere around there. Nearly half of elderly people lived in poverty. And the point of the public pension program was to alleviate that problem, and it did. It went from 40 to, I want to say, to a little bit south of 10% because of Social Security. The problem with Social Security is because of the medical side of it, it is unsustainable. As far as I'm aware, the actual pension side of it is okay, but in combination with the medical side of it, it is unsustainable. You constantly need a larger and larger generation in order to make it sustainable. And because we're currently not having that, we don't have that right now. Our, what would it be? I don't, not consummation numbers. What's the fucking, uh, what's the word for creating a larger generation than the previous one? It has a certain word. Someone in the chat can point it out because I forget what the fuck it is. Birth rate is it, but there's another word for it. So some anonymous user just had his message retracted. Prince says, off topic, but I just learned I'm like you and have ancestors that fought in the Revolutionary War. Know who he was, too. Feels good, man. Well, congratulations to you, Prince, who has your roots all the way back to the founding of the country. Replacement rate. That's what it is. Replacement rate. Thank you, chat. What about disability? I lost my... Zeppy asks, what about disability? I lost my job because I fractured 7 vertebrae, so am I supposed to just... No, I never said disability. There is disability fraud, but the thing is that... you got to understand that I'm not unsympathetic. Like, dude, I've met firefighters that have been permanently disabled while saving a life. I know a guy that lives just north of me in Youngstown. He was a firefighter. He was severely injured while he used his body to shield someone he was saving, and the roof collapsed on him. He saved that person's life and had like 16 fucking surgeries. You don't think I feel sorry for that guy, and you don't think that I think he deserves to be have disability for saving a life. And I'm not unsympathetic. I'm not even unsympathetic when it comes to workers' compensation. My father went on workers' compensation to no fault of his own. It wasn't any sloppy work on his part. He was severely injured on the job, required back surgeries. And the thing is that what he did is he took it, was on it, got off of it, went right back to work. The only thing that I'd agree that needs to happen is for the private sector, there needs to be a year limitation. There already is in New York, but it needs to be, right now it's 7 years. That's the maximum for new cases. I think it should be a little bit shorter than that. I think it should be right around 5-6 years. I think that's enough. Because by 5-6 years, you should either qualify for permanent disability or you should go the fuck back to work. Because when my father got injured, all he did was change his field. He immediately found a new field of work that had to deal with all the skills that he acquired after 20 years of being a tradesman. He earned a lot less at the beginning. He's now earning a lot more because he's a fucking hard worker. But, to me, it's just a matter of, the old saying that, welfare should be a safety net and not a hammock. And the other thing is, too, the firefighter case is not even the worst case. The police officer cases are always the fucking worst. Those are the worst ones that I'm aware of. Of a cop in the line of duty gets shot by some fucking scumfuck, and he's permanently disabled because of it. Though the worst cases with the police officers are not just physical disability but PTSD, where they become I don't remember what the name of it is, but it's where you're afraid to go outside. That was one case that I didn't investigate him. It was just meeting with him to go over, his information to make sure everything's still correct and all that jazz. I met with his attorney, and it's all formal. It's not any kind of real surveillance. I just did it on behalf of the insurance company that's paying him. And one particular officer, it was terrible because he was permanently disabled. He could still walk and everything, but he was obviously disabled. He had chronic pain, and he had PTSD because he basically was in a struggle with this guy, and he basically waited for something like 5 to 10 minutes for backup to show up, and it fucked him up mentally, basically. Because what happened is that he got shot, and the guy, the killer basically had the chance to execute him, and spared his life and took off. And because of that, the cop had PTSD and also was permanently disabled from being shot multiple times. So, I'm not ever going to say that that guy doesn't deserve some kind of payment for his service. Agoraphobia. That might be what it is. But he that was one of his disabilities was he's afraid to leave the house. But he's like, basically he went to therapy and he met me outside of his house, so he's gotten better. So that's good, at least in his regard, is he's doing like, I think it's exposure therapy, where you basically step by step, confront your fear. So the guy is trying to, potentially, no longer be disabled. So he's trying, but you can't cure the chronic pain he has. There's no real way to solve that. So he's permanently disabled. Dylan asks, General Sherman actually didn't do anything wrong. He only destroyed the homes of 2% of the population that owned slaves, and if it wasn't wrong for him taking Atlanta, the Union would have lost the war. Yeah, I'm not saying that General Sherman wasn't instrumental in winning the Civil War. The meme that I posted is just because back in the day, the Southerners fucking hated him because he had a terrible reputation as being the most ruthless general in the fucking war. Age Boomer asks, do you think Anthem will sink EA? Well, I've seen contradicting information. I've seen contradicting information about Anthem. I have seen information that says that it's going to fucking land like a bomb and be a dud for EA and BioWare. But I've also seen articles floating around, and this might just be bullshit propaganda, claiming that in the first few weeks of the game selling, it's going to sell somewhere between 5 to 6 million copies. So I've seen contradicting claims of what's going to happen with Anthem. I can't even believe, I don't want to believe that 5 to 6 million fucking people are going to be so goddamn stupid as to buy that piece of shit game. But I don't make their, decision. I don't make their purchase decisions for them. It's up to them to decide whether they want to buy this piece of shit, this shovelware, or not. And if that happens, it's going to save EA, or it's going to save BioWare. If it sells 6 million copies, it'll have saved BioWare. But if it doesn't, if it sells somewhere near 1 million or less, I mean, I won't say that BioWare's done, because Christ knows that they just keep the thing on a lifeline, but it significantly increases the chances of it finally being shut down, or it gets Maxist. They keep on the Texan team, God, what is it? Not Anaheim, Austin team. They keep that team on for SWTOR so long as it stayed open, and I don't know how much shelf life that game has left, honestly. The population is down to like something like 4 to 5 servers. So there's not a whole lot of population left with that game, and you have a full staff still in Austin. Eventually, they're going to have to lay people off there. Tim Riggs says, what the fuck is wrong with your state in this new abortion, let's face it, baby murder law that was cheered by the absolutely immoral left? I have no idea. It's endless virtue signaling by Cuomo. He's got to come up with a way in which to gin up his bona fides with the fucking left. That seems to be basically where the establishment left, the Democrats, are now, is basically, they're still economically neoliberals, but in terms of their social policies, they're all far left now. I mean, I can't imagine anyone outside of the far left wanting to fucking delve into the issue of abortion again. Like, I barely have an opinion on abortion. Like, I don't even understand why this is still an issue. Like, why it's still talked about. But it's some, for whatever reason, with feminists, it's a big deal. For whatever reason, it's some kind of philosophical or ideological, like, what would it be? Like flagpole? What would you call it? Something that you circle, you rally around. I don't get it. I've never had a strong opinion about abortion, and I don't understand why anyone would see it as something that it's worth celebrating. I legit don't understand it. Oh, did fucking John Marston get timed out again? Hold on, can I undo that? No, I can't. I can't contradict my mods. I can't contradict my mods. Their rule is ultimate. Their authority can't be questioned. So yeah, if someone from the left who for whatever reason stumbled across my fucking channel, can you explain to me why I should have a strong opinion on abortion outside of I don't think the state should dictate to people what mistakes they make? Can someone please just explain to me why I should give a shit? Bad Tara says, bad news, your child just turned 4 and hasn't proclaimed they're trans. Have you thought about a late term abortion? Oh jeez. Yeah, that whoever it was, the governor of Virginia, I think someone said, that was fucking crazy. The fact that he like you can't say we're going to deliver the child and then terminate it. Like you can't even imply it. That's fucking crazy, dude. That's nuts. Like that's some Sodom and Gomorrah shit, all right? Are you trying to make the Christians fucking insane? Like if you want like Templars, like Christian militiamen, like killing like atheists and shit, this is how you're gonna get it. Like, do you want abortion doctors to get murdered? Because this is how it's gonna happen. This is the kind of shit that you do if you want that to happen. Yeah, people are saying in the chat, Deuce Vault. That's how you're gonna. If you want that, if you Crusaders, I should have just said Crusaders. I didn't even think about it. American Crusaders. If you want them to actually happen in the United States, this is the kind of shit that you should do if you want it to happen. I swear, like I'm not agreeing on the abortion part. Obviously, you shouldn't be killing babies. You shouldn't be killing babies that you've delivered. That's fucking crazy. All right. But if you ever want me to like have the back of the Crusaders, the new Crusaders in America, the only way that you're getting me there is with the fucking drag kid shit. That's how you're gonna make me fucking far right. It's the drag kid shit, man. Okay, that shit is I can't stand it. That are Muslims. Muslims is a number 2. Drag kids number 1. Muslims are number 2. I fear the Muslims a lot more than I do the Christian Crusaders. Oh man. Drag kids don't violate the NAP. Well, it's a good thing I'm not a fucking ANCAP then. Remove kebab. Okay, please don't ban John Marston anymore. Not unless I say so. If he steps out of line, then he gets banned. But John Marston has rejoined the chat. My thoughts on the Liam Neeson controversy. Well, it's as far as I know, that was just people making a what is it? A mountain out of a molehill. A molehill. It was like a friend of his got raped and he wanted to murder the person that raped her. And then people are like, "Oh, it was because it was a black guy." And it's like, "Oh, I didn't hear him say black guy." You know, people say it's like they said as though that he said like, "Oh, I wanted to kill that nigger" or something like that. I didn't see anything in what he said that made it racial. He just said, "I want to kill the guy that raped my friend." It's like, well, okay, every dude has revenge fantasies. Every guy has revenge fantasies. So I'm not going to condemn somebody for something that every guy has. He said black bastard. Oh, okay. So he did say he did make it racial. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I would say like he already apologized for it, so whatever. But I would ask like, was it a thing about the guy being black, or was it just an insult that he was making? That because that to me is the context of the statement. Is it you generalizing about blacks that they rape, or is it just you and just being angry about the guy and calling him a black bastard? Because I do think that there is a context of what he actually meant by that. And unfortunately, I don't even know if he explained it. He just fucking bent the knee and apologized profusely. Patrick says it would be easy for Republicans to win if they reduced immigration by 10 to 20% and use mild tariffs. Well, not mild tariffs, but targeted tariffs. Targeted tariffs. That's how, through the lens of American hegemony, those style tariffs. But no, they push the public towards socialism. I do think that there's a lot wrong with the conservatives. A lot of their optics are stupid. They seemingly, I see this all the time on Twitter and from conservative pundits. They adopt the rules of the left. They adopt the language of the left. They adopt the tactics of the left. They're like, it just seems it's a weird thing about conservatives. They just seem to. It's like you don't even challenge the ideas of the left. You try to make them your own, and it's just like, well, that's if you want to be the left, just be the left. That isn't how you actually beat the left, by adopting all of the rules, their language, and everything else. It's by being the opposing force. I really don't understand the tactics by many conservatives, especially the pundits. They don't really seem to know what they're doing. The thing is that Sargon did a video on Trump virtue signaling in his State of the Union speech about women in employment. And the problem is that, tactically, Trump did a smart thing by doing that. He did, in fact, that was 4D chess by Trump to fuck with the Democrats. But the problem is that in doing that 4D chess, you then adopt the position of women in the workplace, women, we should be advocating for more women in the workplace. When I, as a nationalist, think that we should have more women in the home because they can afford to be in the home. We should have more fathers working, earning enough to support a middle-class family, and mothers with their children. They should be, they should have the ability to do that. Now, not every woman wants to do that, but that should be the focus. If your concern is families, if your concern is households, if your concern is the stability of families and of households themselves and of a middle-class lifestyle, you should be focused on single or earning households. Households that have two parents but only one breadwinner, because that's all you need. When you advocate for women in the workplace as just not the liberty for women to work, but instead for it to be moral for women to work, you are agreeing with the idea of a more unstable household, with women not raising their families, not raising their children. Even in my, it's one of the things with my family in particular. When I was very young, my mother wanted to stay home, but she had to work in order to have health insurance for the family, because with my father's trade, he didn't have that. It was too unstable. He earned a lot, but he was out of work enough to where we couldn't maintain health care, insurance. So my mother had to work. And to me, it's a matter of, if my father had enough stable, and it was because of the economy at the time in the 90s and in this area, it was really bad. So it's not really my father's fault. If my father earned enough, he could have afforded to just buy insurance. Then my mother wouldn't have needed to have worked. And the issue was, what happens when a mother and a father both work full time? Well, you have to stick your kid in fucking daycare, which is more money that you have to spend. So you're not raising your child. Whoever the fuck's running the daycare is raising your child. Thankfully, the daycare that I was in as a child was run by two older people that were very, not necessarily authoritarian, but disciplinary and manners oriented. And I think that that's one of the things that I benefited from being in that um, daycare, was that from an early age, I learned manners. And obviously, if you listen to me now and I'm just swearing and the rest, profanity to me, I'm not profane when I'm, in a public setting that the decorum isn't suited to that. If I'm in a bar, I'm going to swear. But if I'm at a dinner with important people, I don't swear. I'm polite. I'm happy. I act in a different way because it's for decorum's sake. That's how you act in that kind of setting. And only people that understand manners behave in that manner. But the issue is that was all from daycare. And it was because my mother was too busy working, So I think that with conservatives, I don't really want to sit here and lecture you on how you should run your own movement or whatever. But even as you have people like Ben Shapiro going, oh, there's a crisis in Christianity, there's a crisis in faith in America. It's like, yeah, but you're the one that's going to sit there and say the same shit. You're going to repeat the same fucking lines about, oh, it's a good thing that we got women in the workplace. You're just going to repeat the same feminist bullshit. And you're not actually going to consider what's best for families. And I'm not trying to pick on Ben. He's hardly the only one, but he's one of those guys who he just adopts the positions of the left willy-nilly. And it's like, well, are you actually a conservative? Like, why am I sitting here like questioning why like you believe what you believe? Because it isn't conservative. It isn't even philosophically conservative. It doesn't make any sense. The only one that I've seen, and I've seen many people say this, the only person that I've seen as of late that has been actually considering philosophically what is best for the country from a conservative point of view is Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is the only person out there. I'm not, Tim is saying that I'm equating conservatives with Republicans. I'm not intentionally doing that. I can only go with what people call themselves. But Tucker Carlson is one of the very few people that I've seen who's a conservative who has been actually questioning what is best for society, for families, for the rest of it. It's all these other fucking people that, including Ben Shapiro, who's basically saying, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, we need to be worried about this and that. When ultimately it's like, you aren't like, when you are a capitalist, you don't give a shit about families. And that appears to be what is the basis of Ben Shapiro's philosophy. That appears to be the basis in which of his philosophy is capitalism, is that as a worldview. If the GDP is up, if the stock market's up, therefore your society is doing well. And, I've already conceded that, American society, American culture is sick. It's obviously sick. And yet Ben Shapiro thinks everything's good. Hey, the stock market, and the NASDAQ just went up the other day by a few hundred points. Hey, therefore everything's good. But sorry, I forgot to give him credit. There's a crisis in spirituality, whatever the fuck that means. There's a problem with religiosity in the United States. Okay. Okay. It's like, yeah, there are plenty of Christians in the Gilded Age, Ben. Like, I like, faith is important, sure, in morality and the rest, maybe so. I do think that there is an argument that not every person that leaves Christianity becomes a better person, sure, but The issue is I don't think, faith is going to fucking save America. I really don't. I don't think faith is what's going to fucking get Marxists out of academia and out of every corporation in America. You know what I mean? It seems like capitalism and fucking progressivism are holding hands right now. And they're pulverizing all of us into the ground, including the rest of fucking America. I don't even know if Bannon, Bannon is a little bit, I would call him a nationalist, but I'm not really sure if how philosophically conservative Steve Bannon is. I don't think that is the basis in which where his beliefs come from. He appears to be someone who is acting based on what is best for America as a nation. That's where he derives his views. Matt Ward asked, can you elaborate on how American culture is sick? Okay, dude, where do you want me to begin? Should I create a fucking list for how much shit is wrong with the United States currently? Enclaves, ideological separatists, racial separatists, people that want the abolition of the entire fucking country, people that don't believe in the Constitution, people that reject each other's rights. Do you want me to keep going down the list? People that think, pimping kids is acceptable, and not just acceptable, but moral. People that think that deconstruction of art and beauty and fucking everything of value is morally good. Jesus Christ. How long should I go on? The fact that academia is fucking wall to wall and subservient to Marxism. The fact that socialism is, and the demand for socialism is growing in the United States. The fact that single parent households are out of control. Teen pregnancy is still an issue. There's a million ways in which the United States has a lot of problems. And, the issue is that I really do think that there's a lot of conservatives that don't really have an answer. I do think that there are. I do think that there are conservatives that have answers to some of these issues. But I think that, unfortunately, many Republican/conservatives, they are too afraid, or they're unwilling, or they don't really care. They don't really believe in what they say they believe, so they don't really take any of it seriously. They're not actually doing anything about any of these things. They're not actually advocating for any of these things to change. They're just lecturing. They're just hand-wringing. They're just complaining, but they're not actually saying what I'm saying. Okay. Right now, today, right now, I want Congress. I'm calling for Congress to immediately discontinue funding for any university in the country, public, private, any. No funding to universities with any African American studies, women's studies, gender studies, any of those programs, any of those departments, diversity departments, any of that. No public funding, no taxpayer funding for any university. Next step, no tax credits, no tax subsidies, no tax breaks to any corporation with affirmative action. How about that? Gender quotas, diversity quotas, the rest of it, no tax credits, no subsidies, no benefits at all from the government if you are discriminating. How about that? Pass that fucking law. I'm actively calling for things to change and for that to occur. And I'm calling on my goddamn elected representatives to fucking do it. Not just sit on their ass and do nothing. Pass another tax cut for whomever. Think that that's going to mean shit. Invade Venezuela. As if that's going to do fucking anything for this country. But the thing is, though, is even, let's say, for example, that I am not philosophically a conservative. Okay, I am not a philosophically conservative. Even from a tactical point of view, even from Saul Alinsky, Machiavelli, whomever point of view, in terms of tactics, why in the world, why on earth is Congress sponsoring activist organizations, leftist activist organizations? Why? It's happening to the tune of tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars, maybe even more. Why are conservatives, Republicans, sponsoring those programs? Why not day fucking one? Doesn't matter anymore now that you've lost Congress, but day fucking one. Why don't you get rid of all the subsidies to those programs? All the subsidies, all the credits, everything that you can to hurt your opposition. Why don't you do that? Even from the perspective of tactics. Why? For the love of God, for the life of me, why didn't they do that? It doesn't make any sense to me why someone who is completely ideologically opposed to these people, why they would continue to fund activist organizations that in effect operate as a political opposition to them. Why would you fund your political opposition? Why didn't they defund Planned Parenthood? Planned Parenthood acts as an opposition to the Republican Party. Why the fuck don't they actually defund it? Why? They had the power. They could have done it. Why didn't they do it? Yes, the left would have gone crazy. You already lost the House. What did it fucking matter? When you have power, you go for broke. Eventually, they're going to take it back and they might create it again. But for at least that time, you have that opportunity to operate against your political opposition, to go against your enemies, your rivals. You have the power to utilize against them. And all it is, it's not like you putting them in jail. You're preventing taxpayer dollars from going in their fucking coffers, from universities becoming activists, like recruiting organizations for your opposition. Why don't you defund them? To me, it makes no fucking sense. It makes no fucking sense to me. I just, for the love of God, I just don't know what goes through the minds of these, the strategists, the political strategists for, let's just say, the Republican Party. The Republican Party. Why strategists would not have this at the tip of their tongue? Why wouldn't they do this day fucking one? It's so fucking obvious to anyone who doesn't have their head up their ass that universities are churning out leftist activists. You're funding them. You have the power to take it away. Why don't you do it? It just, how many decades has that been true? And nothing has been done. Well, that's the thing. Nicolo, however you say it, you just said it. Nick just said it here. It gives them something to run against because they stand for nothing, Louis. That is true. That is true. So everyone press 1 in the chat for Nick right now. That is in fact true. That to me is the cynical end of this, of why tactically they don't do it. But the problem is, I think there's some kind of saying of whatever it is, like you send the ravenous dog at your enemy, but all you have to do is hope and pray that it doesn't turn around and eat you too. I forget what the metaphor is exactly, but it's basically that of, you allowed these universities to get so out of control because you must have not have believed that it was any kind of real threat to your power, whether it was politics or culture. But they were obviously wrong, man. There's a lot of people, more and more every year in this country, celebrating the idea of having socialism in America. More and more people every year. And you got to rip it out by the root. And it starts at universities. I'm sorry, that's exactly where it's coming from. It's from universities. That is the source. There's going to be other sources as well, but I'm telling you that's the one. And for everyone who's like Ben Shapiro, who's the fucking uber capitalist, the objectivist, no, he's not, but the objectivists that exist, like, culture matters. And you might not think that this is a big deal, but you, the capitalist, the uber capitalist, should be looking at these polls that say more and more people are becoming and being sympathetic towards socialism. Why the fuck aren't you afraid of that? Cut it out, take it, rip it out by the root. Rip it out by the root. It's obvious where it's coming from. You got to stop it before it fucking consumes this country, man, before we fucking become Venezuela. God damn. I mean, are we going to get our own goddamn Jeremy Corbyn before we figure this shit out? Tim says you need to schedule a late night drinking stream and everyone takes a shot every time you get pissed off. Yeah, well, to me, it's just the frustration of it kicked off with whoever had asked it of no, it was Matt Ward. That's who asked it of what's sick about American society. Bro, that ain't a fucking short list, man. That ain't a short list. Tim says, as I said before, Republicans, especially in the national office of Republicans, are just as power hungry as Democrats. Leftist policies, centralized power. Yeah, there's many things about the Republicans in which they do centralize power. You saw a lot of that under George W. Bush. Holy shit. How about Homeland Security in terms of centralizing power? That itself is just a huge, gigantic fucking government program. And I don't really know how effective it is. And there's also, and I know this as well, and I've had a lot of people that are more knowledgeable on it than I am, that there's a ton of redundancy with the alphabet soup agencies. There is a ton of fucking budget justification going on, scrambling to justify their fucking budgets. And they parody that in GTA 5, but it's very fucking true. And it's not just the FBI and fucking CIA. It's a lot of agencies that do that kind of shit. Keth says, I think we do need a religious structure to cure America. I don't agree. Maybe moral. You can see a moral structure to cure America, but I don't necessarily agree with religious. Because does that include fucking oh God, what is it? From out in California, Scientology. Does that include Mormonism? Does that include Catholicism? Like, what do you mean by religious? That's the big problem. Is what counts. And I guarantee, and that's the thing with Christians is they'll agree on Christianity, and then it's like, okay, what kind? And oh man, that's when the fucking swords come out. That's when everyone starts donning armor, and we get another fucking war. Back in the day, I'm just joking. I mean, that's a long time ago that was true. Keth says compassion is a euphemism for permission to be weak. Sure. I agree completely with Jordan Peterson that compassion has become a fucking weapon. I'm starting to get to lead Weagle territory in terms of misspeak. Age Boomer says American culture is sick because the arts are being used to spread. Oh yeah, bro, absolutely. I mean, that's half my fucking channel. And I'll read this from Age Boomer, and it's absolutely true. Thanks for the support there, Boomer. American culture is sick because the arts, and I would say media and fiction, are being used to spread SJW ideology 100%. Everyone in chat, give him a 100% in response, because that is absolutely true. That is half the content of my fucking channel. Let's see here. Is there anything in the chat that I missed? Actually, let me check on Twitter really quick in case anybody sent me something. Usually it only happens until afterwards. Somebody sent me a meme of how is law and order kept and the issue of scarcity dealt with. And authoritarian left says government. authoritarian right says government and property rights. Libertarian right says property rights, and the left libertarian just is a meme of shrugging shoulders. All right, that's that. Oh, hold on a second. Somebody questioned on Twitter whether I'm center or left anymore. I don't know. I like I said, I don't consider myself to be philosophically conservative. I mean, someone can try to convince me otherwise, but I don't believe I am. I've listened to people talk about conservative philosophy, and I don't agree. I disagree more than I agree. The only case in which I agree is that I think conservatives have they have a lot to say about families and the importance of the family structure, and I think that is in fact important. I think that they have a lot there, not just in terms of ethics or moral justification, that sort of thing, the philosophical end of it, but the actual in practice effect. I do think they are correct. I think so goes the family, so goes the nation. And if you have nothing but fucking dysfunctional families, you're going to have a dysfunctional fucking nation. Sargon just put up a video. Let's stream snipe his video, Louis. How? He's not live. Is he live? How do you stream snipe somebody who's not live? Is it Sargon's video, Cortez is angry, State of the Union? Is that what you mean, Baczynski? Say it in the chat. Which video are you talking about, Baczynski? Have I watched Joe stream with the hypocrite Jack? No, I haven't. Supposedly Joe softballed the entire thing, so I don't really care. Which video? Oh, the Red Cortez? Well, do you mean the old one, or do you mean the one he just put up? Because Red Cortez is a video he made a long time ago. All right, fine. We'll watch it. Like in the chat, I want everyone to vote. Press 1 to watch Sargon's video. Press 2 to not watch his video. So I'll leave it to the chat. Vote now. Press 1 to watch the video. Press 2 to not. Alex Jones declared war on Joe Rogan. Well, that's too bad. I thought they were friends. That's too bad. I see a few more 1s than 2s, but I do see some 2s. All right. Well, I'll start it, but hold on. Let me bring it up. Let me bring it up on screen. All right, and I'll share my screen, and hopefully Sargon doesn't object to this. I doubt he will. I doubt he gives a shit. It's on his secondary channel, anyways. So, all right, well, hold on. Let me turn up the volume of this, and we'll watch. Let me get the chat back up. Patrick says the use of religion is an institution that is not fading left, that keeps communities from being atomized. Sure, I'm not even saying that there isn't a serious basis in a serious argument for religion in a society. I'm not saying that. I've definitely moved away from my position that an ideal society would be non-religious, as it used to be back in the old days of me being like autistically atheist. I've definitely moved away from that position. But I do stand by the fact that there should, I do stand by secularism. And by that, I mean rules that are in place to divorce religious activists and religious identitarians. And I don't care if they're Christian or Muslim identitarians, keeping them away from power, keeping them out of power. I do think that there should be measures by which that we keep ideologues and fanatics away from power. A good example is the Islamist that we now have in Congress. Day one, what does she do? She changes the rules of the entire Congress. That is degradation of the country. That is bad. I don't care if it's a Christian or a Muslim. We should not be making compromises to law in this nation because of more religion, more fucking fantasies. You know, even if faith is an adhesive to a society, we should not be doing that. Because that is putting in place a fanatic in an office, an identitarian in an office. And I don't care whether it's a religious fanatic or if it's a race fanatic, we should be keeping those kind of fucking people out of power. Because the fact is, this is an individualist nation, and that isn't fucking changing. Fuck collectivism, fuck collectivists, and fuck anyone who is a collectivist that runs for office. I hope you lose. You're a piece of shit. Get out of this fucking country. I hope you get deported. Ket says, Louis, help me write an American Tao Te Ching. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I take it as a joke, but I don't get it there, friend. All right, so let's get to the video. Thanks for the super chats, though. There's been a lot tonight. And this is what I mean. All of my numbers are up, just not sub count.
She's mad. She's not a happy girl. This didn't go very well. And even the Washington Post are reporting on how not well it went for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at Trump's State of the Union address, because the God Emperor absolutely smashed it with a 76% approval rating by a CBS News poll. At times, she remained seated as others stood, at times serious while others applauded. Yeah, I noticed that a bunch of you didn't applaud, you know, Black people and Hispanic people having the lowest unemployment rating ever and things like this. You guys only applauded yourselves for existing.
So I'll pause there to say that that's actually part of the 4D chess that Trump did, was he got them to stand up and, in fact, applaud for themselves. That is literally what they did. They applauded the fact that they, as women, were elected to office. And that's not just narcissistic and ridiculous, obviously, but it tells you about their motivations, I think. So that is, so people mock the idea of 4D chess Trump, but no, it's true. He's not a dumb guy. I definitely think that, yeah, I don't want to call him a snake, because I think that makes it sound bad. He's Machiavellian. I'll say that. He is Machiavellian. And that was one of the ways he displayed it, was during that speech.
Congress, which really was easy to see for everyone watching, just how unbelievably self-centered you people seem to be. But just the ones of you in the white, good that you left your hoods at home this time. So her reaction to Trump's...
So I'll actually jump off of what Sargon just said there, because he actually didn't say what I said on Twitter, which is absolutely true. With the white, you guys understand why they wore white, right? They're wearing white as a symbol to suffragettes. The suffragettes were fucking racist. Why do I have to keep saying this? The suffragettes were racist. They went to the South. They campaigned in the South for the women's right to vote for white women as a means to keep the black man down. They overtly said it. They campaigned on it. They printed it. You could go online and find this. It's not hard to find. Just type fucking, suffragettes racism. It's right there. They actively campaigned in the South using this kind of rhetoric. And they said overtly that the intention of having white women vote was for the purposes of keeping black men that had just, got the vote, to keep them down. They overtly said that. How is it that every goddamn person is a racist? You're a racist. I'm a racist. Sargon's a racist. Everyone's a fucking racist. Yet here you are, dressing in all white, celebrating an organization that went hand in hand with the Klan to suppress the fucking black man. Like, it's just amazing to me. Whether it's fucking these dumb cunts in Congress or whether it's fucking Red Dead, why is everyone glossing over the fact that the fucking suffragettes were racist? They were. They absolutely were. Fuck.
Speech was somber and prompted a debate on social media about her sullen appearance and the apparent condescension in telling a woman to smile. That's not what they're saying. They're saying she looks like she took a defeat there, which is great. Apparently, a Wall Street journalist writer called Peggy Noonan wrote that she had a rare bad night, not looking spirited, warm, and original, but as usual, but sullen, teenaged, and at a loss.
She did.
Good observation. She did look that way. But she, of course, clapped back against her critics. Why should I be spirited and warm for this embarrassment of a State of the Union? She responded.
So I'll pause there and say that this is her not utilizing rules for radicals. This is actually anti-Saul Alinsky by doing what she did there. That's a failure on her part. You never allow yourself to take that kind of public, not public, what would it be? That kind of loss to your image, because that's what they're speaking to here. They're speaking to her image as a politician, and that's what she did lose in this. She lost face in that way. Saul Alinsky would never have advised that she act in that way. It always would have been to turn what is in fact a defeat into a win. What the means are to achieve that, I can't think of offhand, but there definitely are ways for you to turn the State of the Union into something better. But because the thing is, the heavy majority of people, it's something like 80%, 79% of people polled, and it's been several polls. Outside of partisan Democrats, the heavy majority of people like the speech. I like the speech. Second half was boring, but it was a good speech. So when you go out there and you piss and moan, and like, oh, this is an embarrassing speech. Okay, well, 80% of people disagree with you. That's a tactical loss. That's you losing image. Eyes of the Wolf says, do you know who Yuri Bezmenov is? He covered this form of subversion in his lectures. Please do a video on him. I appreciate the support, their eyes, but everyone's done a fucking video on that guy. I don't really want to do it. He's pretty common of a name now. Everyone's watched that. At least there's like 2 videos of him talking about subversion. They're not hard to find, and people have talked about them. Kath says, it's the foundational book of Taoism, you cretin. Institute Religious Secularism Now. Okay. Baczynski says, if Cortez is always cold, is making love to her necro. It's Baczynski coming in with a $5 Brazilian money. I forget what the joke I was going to make about Brazilian money. Bolsonaro money. I don't remember what I was going to make a joke about Brazilian money, but I don't remember what it was. Someone in the chat come up with a better joke than I could.
Tonight was an unsettling night for our country. The president failed to offer any plan, any vision at all for our future. We're flying without a pilot, and I'm not here to comfort anyone about that fact. What? What are you talking about? Like, he is demonstrating that his plan is working. That's what he did. Repeatedly, over and over, to the point where you guys all start applauding. He is, in his opinion, making America great again. And if the reaction to that speech was anything to go by, then over 3/4 of people who watched it also agree with him. You are very definitely in the minority in your opinion of that speech, Miss Cortez. Just to let you know, Trump is going to carry on acting in America's interests, and you're like, we're flying without a pilot. No. Or is this because Trump did a full-on Bolsonaro and put himself firmly against socialism and firmly on the side of capitalism?
Yeah, I do think that was it. I would have to say that that's probably the impetus of why she got pissy. I agree. I do think, because apparently fucking Bernie did a response as well. Bolo Bucks. That's a good one, Fearless Leader. Bolo Bucks. What was I going to say? Yeah, it was Bernie Sanders did a response to to the State of the Union, and that was one of the complaints that he had. He was salty. He was. It was really weird. And again, that's not rules for radicals. That's not good strategy. That makes you look like a loser. That's not smart to do.
Firmly on the side of growing, like I think it was the Washington Post again, did a fact check. And Trump had said 5.3 million jobs, and they were like, no, wrong. It's only been 4.9 million according to our calculations. Well, I mean, I wish we could all fail that well, I suppose, right? Like, that's such a great success. Twice as many jobs as expected. I watched a load of clips and like read a load of articles from.
Somebody said in the chat that John Marston actually said Cortez is a moron. The rich never paid more than like 45% after deductions. I'm not really sure in terms of, I think you mean like back in the day, like the 50s and that, where they allegedly paid like 90%. Maybe so. I don't really know much about the taxes at that time to say whether that's true or not. But I can tell you that, especially in the globalized world that we currently live in, and I'm not saying that, I'm not in favor of progressive taxation, but what I am saying is that after a certain dollar amount, the rich will just fucking move. After a certain dollar amount, the rich, or percentage, the rich will just fucking move. And when that happens, your state economy, if it is a state or a country, it just fucking, and investment too. That's another big one about rich people. It just falls off the face of the earth. Like, your economy just fucking fails. So you need rich people. You need capitalists to have a functioning state or country.
The regular alphabet soup networks, and even the ones that hate him the most, like MSNBC, can't say, well, this isn't impressive. And yet you're sat there going, we're flying about without a pilot. I'm not here to comfort anyone about the fact. Is your problem that he's not a dictator, Alexandria? Is your problem that he isn't Maduro? Because that seems to be what you're saying with flying without a pilot. Freedom doesn't need a pilot. What it needs is a president who's going to act in the interests of his own nation. And that's what he's doing. And it's working out. It seems to be making everything a bit better for everyone in the country, especially the minorities that you claim to care so much about, even though you wouldn't applaud. And like lowest number of people who are disabled out of work. Don't you think it's good that disabled people can work and earn their living? And
absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. As someone that spends every goddamn day investigating this, yes.
Get sort of self-respect in that way. I mean, I know disabled people, they don't want to be sat around at home, unable to do anything. They don't want that, but you didn't clap for that. You didn't applaud, because Trump apparently has no plan. And Trump having no plan is going great. And
that is funny. That is actually very true. If Trump is such an incompetent, things would be worse off, and they're not. I still say that American society has plenty of fucking problems, and even with Trump, he's not addressing those things. But it is a fact that I don't think things are worse. I mean, can someone give me an objective measure by which things are in fact worse under Trump when compared to Obama, Bush, Reagan, whatever? What's worse? That's his fault. Someone name it. Name what it is. I can't think of what it is. Our foreign policy is not worse outside of national debt. Well, is that his fault? Is national debt his fault? I mean, actually, with the failure to make cuts and the tax cuts, I'm not really sure. It depends on who came up with the plan. I guess if it was his plan, then it would be his fault. The debt would be technically his fault. But I'm not sure. Whoever gets credit for the bill, for the tax cuts they did, and not making any cuts to pay for them. I do agree. I'm not in favor of the United States ending and running endless deficits, and that leading to the colossal debt we currently have. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, nobody is addressing the national debt. That's true. He's making therapists very rich. That's true. Tara, that's actually true. That's not even a joke. That's actually true. Debt comes from spending too much. Now, I just said they haven't made the cuts, Tim. I'm not saying otherwise. I said they need to make cuts. I think that we're taxed fine. I think the taxes are fine. I don't think they need to be increased. I think they're okay. His tariffs. Okay, so but the thing is, I agree with the tariffs. If people are against tariffs, you can agree, but I agree with the tariffs. So I don't think that's an objective standard. I think that's dependent on what your perspective is. I agree with tariffs against fucking China. I think we should go further against China. Strike Team just says, in quotations, more war, which has a quotation from John McCain. Oh no, the Geth is starting to say taxation is theft.
So offended. Noonan's tweet was perceived as the equivalent of telling a woman to smile, and that's a problem. Don't tell a woman to smile, because, I don't know, harassment, patriarchy, there's got to be some fucking reason. We're not going to...
Somebody just said in the chat, you should go further against Saudi Arabia and Israel. I've already said many times in the past, and I'm not in favor of the stupid relationship that we have with the Saudi Arabians and with Israel in particular. Apparently, Congress did something today that's giving Israel billions and billions of dollars. Why the fuck are we so willing to give Israel so much fucking money when they... I really got to say that whenever Netanyahu comes here, he's totally disrespectful to us, to our politicians, to the United States. It's so like, oh, well, you know, fuck you, give us more money. I'll wait for the answer to be yes and how much. Israel and their leadership has a really bad attitude towards the United States and how much money they just expect from us. I don't appreciate. I'm more than willing to give nations money, especially for defense. I'm more than willing to give countries money for defense and that sort of thing. But you better be fucking respectful to us. You better be fucking respectful to the taxpayers in this country that are forking over billions of dollars to your nation to spend it however the fuck, you know? And I think Israel is one of those bad nations in that way. They're completely disrespectful to us in terms of how much fucking money they give. Well, at least I should say, maybe not the people, but in fact, they're politicians, their political class. They're incredibly disrespectful to the United States and how much we benefit them. But I don't really know. You can poll Israel in terms of the people there, how they feel about our politicians and how much, you know, whether they're grateful to the amount of money we give them or not. You know, I don't really know.
Smile and clap like seals to make him or you comfortable. I know you did, though, didn't you? You fucking did. He was like, ladies, well done for being in Congress. Most women ever on the 100th anniversary of women being able to vote. Congratulations. And you all did clap like seals then, didn't you? Ladies, don't look serious while a man tries to tell you what you can do with your bodies. He's not. He's saying what you can't do with a baby's body when the baby is actually ready to be born. You absolute psychopaths. The very fact that you're discussing abortion up to the point of birth and afterwards, that this is even a conversation, is absolutely vile, and nobody is going to let you forget this come the next election in 2020. You are the party of murdering babies that are about to be born.
So I'll pause it there and say that if the Republicans were smart, they would bait. This is Saul Alinsky. You bait them to talk more about abortion, and then next time around, you basically show your average American Christian, like, yo, the Democrats have gone off the fucking deep end. Vote for us. I can imagine a million campaign ads that are highly effective. Highly effective. So if I was a Republican strategist or a conservative strategist, bait them to talk more about it. And you will fucking have a clean sweep in the next election.
That's what you are. Just so you know. And the fact that you're standing by it under the guise, the rubric of, well, it's a woman's right to choose. No, no. There is a complication here, and that is the baby's right to life. And the baby itself is something that would survive out of the womb at this point. All you have to do is give birth to it. Sorry, no, way too far, way too far. And it makes you look like monsters, like butchers. Absolutely vile, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. But anyway, she says, smile like an idiot no matter what. And the world is yours. Yeah, I agree, you should probably smile like idiots.
Fucking Dean Domino says in the chat, have Jason Voorhees walking through an infant ward with his machete and a Democrat pin on his shirt. I mean, maybe have something, don't make it that fucking hyperbolic, but actually, like, I mean this. I'm actually saying to you that this is some legit strategy that I'm offering here for free. Bait them into talking about it. And this will be something that will win you elections in some districts. I'm telling you.
That won't make you look really weird. A lawyer and activist wrote, notice how women are constantly asked to smile. No, I fucking don't. I walk around streets all day. Like, I'll go into town, I'll go and get my stuff, I'll walk past women and men who are walking past one another, and literally fucking no one says to the other person they should smile. No, I just never see it. But this is apparently to put others at ease, to appease, to smooth out our jagged edges, to blunt our rage, and crucially, always make sure that everyone else is comfortable and wants to get us. Well, apparently it gets you the record number of women in Congress, you ungrateful bitch. It doesn't matter because everyone else was cheering and Nancy Pelosi was encouraging them up to cheer. So Cortez cheered anyway and high-fived people and things like this. So you can...
Actually, I'm going to pause that. She didn't actually high-five anyone. Maybe that video was edited, but I saw a video of her doing that high-five where she's just has it in the air, and the other woman that you see there doesn't actually high-five her. Maybe that video was edited, but I saw that floating around this morning. Maybe it was fake news. But it looked like a very awkward moment for her.
Act enraged afterwards, but we all saw you in the moment, Miss Cortez.
Joining us now is Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is a first-term...
I will say that she, when she closes her mouth, people have been debating whether she's attractive or not. I'm not really sure where I stand on her. I will say that when she composes herself and she keeps her mouth shut, she is presentable. Okay, like this right here with a tight smile, you know, an outfit that seems a little bit fashionable. The hoop earrings are fucking trashy. Her hair's okay in its current form. You know, fairly attractive, let's say. But when she opens her mouth, goddamn. I'm sorry, like I'm not intentionally trying to be mean here. Like, it's just unfortunate. It is one of those features that is unfortunate about her. She doesn't have a good smile.
Congresswoman, she's among the highest profile members of this freshman class. I should mention with her
that, and people are saying in the chat, she legit does have crazy eyes. She legit does. Like, it might be, it's no fault of her own, it's just her own facial features, but she has that thing, like there's some black women that have this as well, where your eyelids like pull back when you pull, like when you open your mouth, it tightens your face and your eyelids go back, so it like exposes more of the white of your eye and makes you look insane. But again, I'm not trying to be mean, genuinely. I think she's a piece of shit cunt socialist bitch and hope she loses the re-election. But I am just saying I'm not trying to be overly mean about her appearance.
Tonight is her guest, Anna Maria Archila. She's an activist who confronted former...
This is weird, isn't it, ladies? Like, what kind of facial expressions are these? Like, the fakest, smuggest smug. It's eternally the mask. It's the mask of someone smiling with the crying face behind meme come to life.
Former Senator Jeff Flake last year in an elevator. She asked him to vote against Brett Kavanaugh for the U.S. Supreme Court at the time in emotional terms, telling Senator Flake about her own experience with sexual assaults. I want to welcome you both here tonight. Thank you so much for making time to be with us. Thank you. Congresswoman, let me ask you first, just for your response to what you heard tonight from the president. Obviously, this is the first State of the Union you've ever attended as a member of Congress. What was your experience tonight, and what did you think of what you heard?
No, I think that the president was unprepared. I don't think that he did his homework.
What? What does it even mean? Unprepared for what? I legit don't understand what she means by that. What is she speaking to? Nate, like, okay, whatever. It just sounds like an empty fucking thing to say. It sounds like a vacuous thing to say.
We've seen States of the Union addresses delivered by many presidents, Democrat and Republican. They almost always have substantive policies that are offered. I agree with Senator Klobuchar there that there was no plan. There was no plan to address our opioid crisis. There was no plan to address the cost of healthcare.
How the fuck, the opioid crisis, how the fuck are you going to solve that? How the fuck, like, legit, how the fuck are you going to solve the opiate crisis? How? The economy's doing better now. Okay, it's still a fucking huge issue. How do you solve it? Oh my God. Legit, like, I'm asking the question, how do you solve the opiate crisis? Let me roll this back a little bit to get that full sentence again. Look at that face.
Offered, I agree with Senator Klobuchar there that there was no plan. There was no plan to address our opioid crisis. There was no plan to address the cost of healthcare. There was no.
Well, look, okay, cost of healthcare. I'm pretty sure he talked about prescription drugs. That's not a plan, but it is a talking point, and it is a promise you can hold him to. Bernie Sanders has introduced bills in Congress a bunch of different times to introduce importing of pharmaceutical drugs. As far as you know, that was what he was implying. What Trump was implying was that. Hold him to it. Propose it tomorrow. You know, Congress is still in session, by the way. I'm very confident of that. Propose that bill fucking tomorrow. And get on television, go on MSNBC, start screaming at the top of your lungs, Trump, you brought this up in your State of the Union. Boom, here it is. Fucking sign it. Demand Congress pass it. Get the Senate to pass it. Sign it. We'll put it on your desk. Boom, done. He talked about it in his speech.
Plan to increase wages.
This complaint amounts to Donald Trump is not fulfilling my personal agenda. And that's true. Donald Trump is fulfilling Donald Trump's agenda.
It was, I had to ask myself, is this a...
You know what would be something smart? You know what would be something smart to do? It wouldn't be smart with her base, because her base would go crazy because they're far left retards that want to basically abolish the United States. But here's a smart thing to do. You propose, you get a border wall bill. You get that bill. You create the bill for, $35 billion for the wall, which I believe is near the full amount, $35 billion. And also include something about single payer, something about whatever the fuck you give a shit about. Whatever your pet project is, you put that bill forward, find somebody else to sponsor it as well. That way you can actually try to pressure the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, to bring it to the floor. It's not easy to do, and they can just, she has the power to whether it goes to the floor or not. But what you do is you propose something that you know is going to get shot down. And you say, look, we're proposing things. We're even giving Trump exactly what he wants, and it's getting rejected. You basically have to switch, you immediately following the State of the Union, where the president is, of course, going to blame Congress for him not getting what he wants. You give him what he wants, but you put a poison pill in it. Then you can then turn around and say, we gave Trump exactly what he wanted, but because he didn't want to compromise, he obstructed. That's a risky thing to do. But what you need to do is not bitch. You need to refocus the optics away from Trump looking competent to you looking like you're trying and him looking like an obstructionist. This is what the State of the Union is about, optics. Who's the, the statesman and who's the incompetent obstructionist? Who's the loser? Who's the person we want to vote out as the voting public? You want to refocus from Trump looking good and statesman-like to you being competent and statesman-like. That's not what you're doing here. You're just complaining.
Campaign stop, or is this a State of the Union?
This is Donald Trump demonstrating to the entire world that he's doing a great job. And the fact that he was so relaxed and managed to get you all in the palm of his hand goes to show that really he is doing a fantastic job, despite all of the opposition. And the opposition is just rabid against Trump, and it has been for years. Never has a president, as far as I am aware, been under this level of scrutiny. And honestly, never have I ever experienced journalists being so active in fact-checking every single fucking word that comes out of his mouth, to the point where the Washington Post posted, Trump said the pile of burgers was a mile high. Incorrect. Like, what? Jesus. This is levels of journalism I didn't think possible before. But what this all means is Miss Cortez is mad. Really mad. And night didn't go her way at all. Trump hit it out of the park and shat all over socialism. And surprise, surprise, she had a face like a slapped ass throughout the whole thing.
That was a good last line. All right, so that's the end of that video. And thank you to Sargon. I'll hold on. Let me get the video, and I'll put it in the description after this so I can credit him for that video. So hopefully those that asked about it are happy that I did that. Rocky Desert Flower says she's slandering him. You know this. And Rocky also says Cortez is the girl in high school who put down all the girls who were prettier and smarter than her. Maybe. I can't really speak to it. She seems like a chameleon to me. She's just not. She's just a lot better at it than someone like Kirsten Gillibrand. Kirsten Gillibrand, as I've said in my own channel in a video, she's the ultimate Democratic chameleon. Gavin Newsom is another one from California. He's now the governor. I knew that would happen, by the way, and I can't stand him. He's a slippery fucker. What was I going to say? But Cortez, I recognize that in her as well. She's another kind of shapeshifter chameleon type. But maybe she does actually believe what she claims to believe. She might be one of those, I'll say whatever, do whatever to get power because I'll be the true socialist dictator. This time around it'll be better because I'm trustworthy and I trust myself and I'm good. That sort of thing. Tim says, the opioid crisis that was enabled by Dems and Republicans sucking off Big Pharma. Yes, I agree. That mouth looks like it could latch on pretty good and not solve it. Oh, Tim. Oh, Tim, with your imagery. Copyright strike. Now, he's not going to fucking copyright strike me. Are you crazy? It's not like I played his full video and didn't actually comment. I might have talked more than the actual video in terms of length. Have I ever considered running for office on the racial merger platform? I don't know. I don't think people are woke enough in this society. We're not ready for the racial merger. You should have heard the local radio on Gavin Newsom, John, and Ken. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Cortez will sell out eventually in her career after she's had some time. I agree, Sage Theory. I agree. I do think she will sell out eventually. I see that with a lot of fucking progressives. They eventually just sell out. So I agree. All right. So I think we've been going for long enough So let's wrap this one up. Let's tie this up. Let's get it done. Let me check Twitter one more time. Nope, still got on Twitter. So let's I'll take a couple more questions and then we'll be done. Hopefully, I'm hoping I got all the super chats. There's a lot, so I'm hoping I got them all. Vivo, now we're getting to end it. No, we got to get at least one question before we end it. We got to get one thing in before we end this. All right, it's not right to do it that way. So let's get something. I'm not answering the fucking kill, fuck, Mary. I'm not answering that. Sargon is not going to fucking strike me for referencing his video on mine. I haven't bought a lawnmower yet. No, that's going to happen in the spring. Do I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pegs her boyfriend/girlfriend? I would like her more if she had a girlfriend, honestly. I would say that if she was like the dom in that relationship, that would be cool. I like that idea. If she pegs her boyfriend, that's gross. I would. It's not necessarily something I wouldn't believe that's possible. Have I seen Pew polling on Gen Z's political views? I believe I have, and I think that people thinking like, oh my god, Gen Z is going to be red pilled as fuck. I think I don't know where they're getting that from based on the polling I've seen. I would say that a certain segment of Gen Z is going to be resistant to progressives or SJWs, but maybe not necessarily progressivism. Would I let Cortez blow me? No, because I don't want to be accused of sexual assault 6 months later. I don't think she's pretty enough to be a booth babe, no. She has a boyfriend. Somebody's saying she has a husband. Let's see here. I don't really have much of an opinion on the INF treaty. I'm not really sure, what I know it's not exactly good for the peace process, but I'm not really sure what to think of it. Later, Louis, you got to go check out some Latina lesbian porn. That's a good one, Tim. She does look like Anita. I will agree. She does actually look like Anita. It's because they're both Hispanic, but also because of, the other features that actually make them similar. Why do people keep comparing her to Trump? She's more like Sarah Palin. I'm not even sure if I think Sarah Palin is a lot more gaffe prone than Cortez. Cortez seems to understand media training to some degree, even though she does say some dumb shit. But I think Sarah Palin says a lot more dumb shit, or she did back in the day anyway. But I don't think she's in any way like Trump. I don't recognize that at all. I've seen people say that. I don't see it. I don't understand how they mean like she's like Trump. Trump seems to understand, like, she's good at social media and good at maintaining her image and that sort of thing. But Trump, it's not the same. Trump doesn't do that same kind of thing. Like, he's good at maintaining his image, but Trump's image is completely different, and he doesn't do it in the same way. So I don't get it. Everyone wants to maintain their image. I try to maintain my image. Everyone does that. That's just something everyone does. When people think less of you, it's very rarely because you intended that to be so. You know what I mean? Baczynski saying he's going to get a green card and come mow my fucking lawn. No, Baczynski, that's okay. That's okay. You stay in Brazil and make it great again. You don't have to come here. Only Tim Pool says that they're the same. Thanks for stopping by there, Tim. And thanks for the support. I've already addressed the Mercedes thing. I don't want to go into it again. I already said that, reset the clock on our side. We finally got one on our side. I don't know whether she's innocent or guilty. She got arrested, and there's an implication of guilt, but I don't really know. Do I think people's primary motivator is the will to power? No, I think people's primary motivator is selfishness. And it's not always a bad thing. But I think that that's people's primary motivation is, I need to eat, I need shelter, I'm cold, I need a shirt or a sweater, whatever. That's people's primary motivation. But will to power is something very specific, if you ask me. Even people that are ambitious, that are pursuing whatever, it isn't necessarily the will to power. People in the chat stop saying "rip Boogie." Boogie is not dead. Boogie is trying to get healthy. All right, so we're getting one more thing, and then I'm ending the stream. Then we're ending it. So something. I gotta see something. I don't think there's any. Yeah, there's no more super chats. That's fine. Let's get something else, and then I'll end this. Oh, don't wish for Boogie to die. I disavow. That's mean. I disavow anyone that's wishing death on Boogie. He actually is taking responsibility for his life. Like, why do you wish ill of the guy? NPC wars? Kyle or Ben? Who's Ben? Ben Shapiro? I think you mean is Kyle Kalinske. NPC wars. I don't know. I don't think that Ben Shapiro is an NPC. I just think that I just don't think that he's as conservative as he pretends to be. I think he's a capitalist. I think that's his basis of his worldview. And I think he plays up how conservative he is. But I wouldn't call him an NPC. Kyle very likely is an NPC. I'm not too sure. I haven't watched him in a while, and I would care not to. Will you do an interview with Tim Pool in his van? I'm not aware that he has a van. Louis, would you let Cortez peg you for $10 million? No. No, thanks. There's not much I would do for, vast quantities of money that would, humiliate me. I'm not willing to do that. I'd rather just earn the money rather than be forever known as the guy that get fucked in the ass by fucking AOC's strap-on. No, thank you. That isn't worth it. Don't know why Sargon gives Kyle credit. Yeah, I don't either. You feel free to ask Sargon, yourself. I've asked him myself. I don't get it. Kyle is just as bad as far as aware as he's ever been, so I give him no credit. People now in the chat debating whether they want to get fucked in the ass for 10 million. Oh, wow. Zeppy, you better watch it. You're going to get timed out for those kind of jokes. I want 12. Now people are asking for more money. Oh, my God. Oh, man. Oh man, people are really embracing this. People are really embracing this. Oh well. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna end it there. We're gonna end it there. Sorry guys, but you ruined the stream. We're ending the stream with your pegging fucking debate in the chat. It's ended this stream. It's dead. You killed it. Press F for this fucking stream because you people in the chat murdered it. So before I go, I'll end the stream by saying to support me on Subscribestar, stop subscribing to me on Patreon, stop supporting me on Patreon, get off of Patreon, support me on Subscribestar, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to me on YouTube, like this motherfucking video, stop pressing F, press the motherfucking L for liking this video, and visit my affiliate links, follow me on all my social media accounts, and check in later this week for likely some more content. And thanks for stopping by tonight and supporting me tonight. All right. Bye.